Okay, okay. I want this episode to start with this very important fact, okay? I'm so cold, I'm freezing my ass off. My whole ass is gone. There wasn't much there to begin with, but my whole ass is gone. I'm so cold. I'm so cold. I do not care.
Yeah,
I'm in
all I
chaos
know is
mode.
my ass is gone, and then it cut out. I was like, oh my god.
That's funny. That's funny. Banter. The second generation of Wicked Villains stuff by Katie Robert was just bought by her traditional publisher. That I'm pretty sure the whole Wicked Villain series was published through too. Right? So they bought those. So those are officially a thing coming. Not until 2026, but those are a thing coming. So can't wait for those episodes in 2026. In other news, Katie Robert did post about her whole like writing and publishing schedule.
You think this podcast is gonna be going in 2026? Oh lord.
That means you if you're still alive and I'm not in jail for committing murder, then yes. Those are the
Oh,
contingencies.
that sounds like who's plotting to murder me.
I'm not planning to murder the fish, I swear.
You're right.
That's funny. Um, but no, they posted a thing about their whole like writing schedule and publishing schedule and editing schedule for like the rest of the year. And let me tell you, I reading that stressed me out, and I'm like, Katie, please, I love you, but you stress me out. This is very important because the next smut episodes after this is Katie Robert. So
the way in 2026 I'll be 23 and you'll be
I'll be 27 for the second half of the year. That is a hate crime. Shut up.
That's the sometimes I forget you're old.
Shut up. I'm gonna look at my sparkly nail polish.
I guess I should introduce myself, please.
I haven't even introduced myself. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I don't know. You think I know what's going on ever in this fucking podcast?
No. Hi. I'm Flower, aka Rose, and my fun fact for this episode is that this book, the fifth Mindfuck book, the last book in the series, was my 690th book ever. I did not know that until I'd already started it, and I laughed very hard. Okay? It's
That's
about
kind of
pregnant, and we're going off the Goodreads because technically Storygraph is like I think there's duplicates, right, and stuff like that. So it's like a different number by like 40 for some fucking reason. So we're going off of Goodreads and saying that this is my 690th book ever, and that's very funny.
Hi. My name is Chris, aka Stingray, and I I have multiple fun facts that aren't very fun. I think I blew the speakers out of my radio. Um, Granted, I've had this radio since I was like 12. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. Um, it was a Fall Out Boy song too. Like Fall Out Boy is not that heavy, so why? I don't know. I don't know about speakers. Not really. Anyways, actually, I'm finishing painting my nails, and that's fun.
Hell yeah. This is a stream of conscious podcast, very similar to how we talk to each other on a daily basis. Today's episode, I already talked about, is I think it's called Paint It All Red. Yes, it is. The last book in the Mindfuck series. Let's go. Don't worry, I am going to do a very basic rundown of the whole entire series so far. So if you don't want to go and listen to
Waiting
like
on you.
5 hours of content, you don't have to. I don't know why you don't want to. Like, it seems like a fun time to me. They're all very funny. I say about this book that has graphic content warning for murder, rape, and torture.
Yeah, the last thing I heard is you cutting me off for my third fun fact.
That's because you didn't say anything, so I just assumed you were
I was
done.
still talking.
I didn't hear any of it. Okay, do
What?
your third fun fact. The last thing I said was the content warning, so don't worry. You can do your third fun fact.
Well, what's the
Post
last thing
content warning.
you say? Was it about me painting my nails?
Yes.
Stuff. Okay. My third fun fact is I listened to another Slipknot album last night. Volume 3. And
I know what that means, totally.
it's just know it's an album, okay?
Hmm.
I feel like
Is
this
that the one
Slipknot
that
song.
had the weird abortion line in it?
No, that's a different band.
Okay. I don't know, you were sending me a lot of screenshots of songs, and I was like, what is happening?
No, while you were uploading a video on Little I was listening to Slipknot. I feel like the Slipknot songs I like say a lot about me as a person, and I don't know how I feel about that. That's all.
That's valid. Okay. Uh, Fun
That's
thing.
valid. You've never heard a Slipknot song in your life.
Important others, just side facts before I go into the basic rundown of the whole series. I'm gonna try to do it as fast as possible, and we're gonna see if I can do it. Is the amount of highlights slash notes I took on this book
It's way too fucking many.
is too many. I've not told the official amount. I just said more than the third one. The third one was 214. You want to make a guess about what the last one is?
Let's play a little game. I'm gonna say a number and you're gonna say higher or lower.
Okay. Let's milk this shit. Let's make it even longer.
327.
Lower.
Oh. 267.
Higher.
289.
Oh, you're so close. I'm gonna give it to you. It's 284.
Oh
You
my
were
god.
5 away. I'm giving it to you. That was so close. Yeah, it's exactly 70 more. And before I wasn't highlighting like whole page. Like if section went longer than a page, I would just end the highlight and start another highlight on the next page. This one, I highlighted a section that was just like 10 pages or something. I don't know. It was wild. I was going a little crazy. We don't need to talk about it. Okay?
I'm concerned for your mental health.
I'm concerned for my mental health too. Speaking of my mental health, you want to talk about what I rated this?
Wasn't it 4.5 or 5?
It was 4.5. The only 5-star currently is the fourth one, though I am highly contemplating rating the first one 5 stars. The only issue is that if I do that, that means that Weight of Blood is no longer the first book I rated 5 stars this year. It's the first mindfuck book, which I don't know how to feel. Uh, right. But in the hierarchy of my brain, the first one and the fourth one are at the same level. They're both first place in this series for me. And then the third and last one, third one, fifth one, are second place. And then right behind it is the second one, just because, as the title of the second one, Sidetracked, says, it's kind of goes off the rails in comparison to the rest of the series. But like,
That's what's called backtrack.
I still like it. It's still a good time. Okay. Um, like as soon as I finished the last one, I had to fight the urge to immediately start rereading the first one.
Oh my god.
This has taken over my brain. In my series tracker, when I finish a series, I give it a star rating. But like, I do the average and then do closest by the half-star rating. So I don't do like quarter-star ratings. It's just half-star, so 3.5 or 4 type thing, right? That's how it works. And of course, nothing's gonna get a 5-star
No.
unless if they're all 5 stars or close. And I labeled this one as a 5-star series. The only thing,
Kiki, no, please don't hang up on Rose.
the
I
only
need
thing,
you to know this cat won't stop trying to do drugs.
oh my god, the only thing that could beat out the series is Bloodmarked or Legendborn when the series is
Oh,
done.
hear me out.
That's
Aren't
that's where
you
we are.
serious doing drugs? Because my mother did be smoking, you know? And every time, Kiki's trying to get inside the fucking bag. One time my mom, got gas all over her coat. Kiki was sniffing all over it. She was huffing gas. Same thing with my mom was getting alcohol for something. Kiki was trying to help that too. She's just trying to help nail polish. There's some
That
other stuff
reminds
too.
that reminds me where if I'm sitting at the desk with my nice long corded headphones, Bella will try to like hang herself on the headphone cord is the joke. Or she'll stick her head through the arm of the chair, but like she can't get it back out on her own. Like all this stuff. And so my mom thinks every time I take the collar off of Bella, I'm trying to choke my dog to death. I'm like, she's the one pulling directly against me, so I'm choking her. I don't know what you expect me to do. Like, apparently my dog likes to be choked. I don't know. She's trying to tell her something. Don't leave rope around her, I guess. I don't know.
I feel like there's something about your dog and her past life.
I know, right? She's such a cutie, though. I almost sent you so many
She's
quotes
just
of her.
cut to the why wouldn't we talk about Bonds' quote.
That's my favorite quote of this podcast. I laughed so hard.
That's you can see the slogan. No longer stream of consciousness. That's the slogan.
Yes. Remember when erotica wasn't planned for this podcast, and then 3 episodes in, it became part of this podcast? Because that's who I am as a person. Okay, ready? Quick rundown of this series, so I can give you all the information. Okay, when Lana was a teenager, I want to say 16, 17, maybe 18, right? She went by Victoria Evans, that's her real name. There was a thing, an event that happened. I'm not going to detail. Basically, there was a serial killer in their hometown, Delaney Grove, and the sheriff was very big on catching the serial killer because his daughter was one of the victims, and so then the FBI framed her father, and then after he was convicted falsely, there was like no evidence, like actually framed evidence and everything, right? They gang raped and killed him, and then the sheriff made his deputies do that, and then made his son watch it. Kyle, watch it. That's important for a thing that I will bring up in this one. And then tells Kyle to then take care of the kids, to punish the kids for his sins. So then he and a bunch of other guys gang rape and almost murder her and her brother Marcus, right? Marcus dies, making sure to get her to a hospital out of the town or county, because the sheriff owns everything. And she, from that day on, revenge that she would, get revenge, blah, 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 blah. She takes she goes by Lana now. She took the identity of a random girl who had also died that night. They said that they were in a car crash and that's why they were injured. She died in a car crash, so she just like switched identities with her. And that girl's parents happened to be the people who drove into her mom's car many years earlier and killed her. That's the background. So Lana is getting revenge. He's killing people that had to do with that night, right? When she meets Logan, he's an FBI profiler, and not any FBI profiler, but he's the profiler in charge of her murders case. Romance.
How insane it is as a serial killer to murder the sheriff's daughter.
I know,
Like,
right?
that's
Don't worry, it's gonna come up in this one. Because that's the only secret that is not blatantly said. You may be wondering how did they frame Robert Evans? There was things and stuff. I don't remember if it was brought up in the previous one or this one. So once I get to a certain point in retelling this one, I will know whether or not I was told the other one. And so if if I haven't already said it because it's in this book, I will say it then. Because I don't want to spoil it if it's in this one. Right? But don't worry, there's all these things. So she's killing people, she's getting revenge, she's torturing people, she's being a hot girl while she does it, and also making the police run circles around her because they think she's a man who's like 250 pounds and 6 feet tall. Meanwhile, she's 5'5" and could kill anybody, honestly. Right?
Not for being taller than me.
I know, right? She's the same height as me. That's so wild. So they start a relationship. It's very sweet, it's very loving. He is hunting down other serial killers at the same time. There's this one named the Boogeyman.
I just remembered something you mentioned when you were reading it. Oh my god.
What?
About her and Logan doing stuff. I was like, how did we get here?
Oh, yeah. So, the boogeyman gets away from the FBI and is now targeting Logan. And they think that he's gonna go after Lana to get to Logan. We're on to the second one now. So Lana's in protective custody basically, but she still gotta do her killing girl shit, right? She ends up killing Hadley, a very close friend to Logan. Basically, she views Logan as like her older brother. She's a redhead, and she works for the FBI doing crime scene analysis stuff, but also hacking into things. Cause she's a cool, smart girl. We love her. Turns out her stepfather abused her in the way that Lana particularly finds killable. So she finds him, kills him when she gets away from the police uh, due to a fight that she has with Logan and whatnot. He had a total of 70 victims, Hadley being one of
How
them.
many?
I know, right? And she, at one point, does take the photo of Hadley being his victim, like proof of her being his victim, out from the rest of the Polaroids, so that later on, Hadley can ask some questions. Because, cough, cough, the boogeyman does come for Lana at the end of book 2. Book 3, Hadley broke into her house, and the boogeyman was there, and knocked her, put her in, like, a closet so she could watch everything, and so she watches Lana kick his
It's
ass.
hilarious because also Hadley is gay. So it's
Yes.
funny, haha.
Technically, it is confirmed Hadley is bi at the end of,
Oh,
or at some point in the fourth one. She is bi. She
still
prefers
hell yeah.
women because it's easier to feel sexually vulnerable around women with her past with her stepfather, but
That makes no sense.
she's bi. Which means
It
there are
makes you
two confirmed bi people in this series. Cause Jacob, the son of the lawyer slash best friend of Robert, and also he was dating Marcus at the time of everything happening, is also bi and helping Lana out by doing a bunch of security and background stuff, and basically doesn't do a lot of the killing, but don't worry, it's fine. Anyways, Hadley sees Lana kick the boogeyman's ass. She destroys him. So Lana, or Hadley knows the secret now, but Hadley won't say anything. She's on and off about it, decided whether or not she's gonna say anything, but then she notices that Lana took her photo from the evidence of all the photos, and Lana says she burnt it because she doesn't want Hadley to have to see herself like that, or have to see her coworkers seeing her like that. And so Hadley's like, you know what? You're a boss-ass girl. I like it. I like it. Let's go. If
I
you
agree.
decide, if you hit a psychotic break, I'll kill you myself. But otherwise, go off, queen.
Mm-hmm.
Iconic things. She does more killings. They get more and more gruesome. It's a fun time. Meanwhile, uh, the FBI are officially learning, or Logan himself is officially learning, that the Robert Evans case from back in the day that has to do with the current day case was 100% framed up by the head of the, like, not the head of the department, but like the main guy who made profiling a thing, and his name is Johnson, and I make a joke that I like to kick him in his Johnson. And honestly, he's the only one out of the three, of the main three, Kyle, the sheriff, Kyle is the sheriff's son, by the way, and Johnson, are the three that I think deserve the most to die. To, like, the most brutal deaths in the last three. Okay, Kyle, because he does a lot of shit. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
shit that Kyle does. The sheriff, lets him, and lets him get away with it, let everything in the past happen, and also other things that come up in this one. But Johnson also, was in charge of the frame job, and let it all happen, and covered everything up, and he gets bodied in like 0.5 seconds and is never brought up again in this one, and it's not, it doesn't feel worth it. He feels like he deserves more, right? Um, but Johnson, covering shit up. Good times. We love it. Also, there is a catfight thing going on where Logan's ex Lisa is very much trying to piss Lana off so that she leaves
Like,
Logan.
get over it.
And so that's a thing that's happening. At one point, Lana does spit gum into Lisa's hair, and every time
Oh my god.
Lisa tries to provoke Lana, Hadley freaks out because she doesn't want Lana to kill Lisa, despite the fact that Lisa's a bitch. And Logan's like, dude, I'm not into you anymore. I found a person I'm happy with. All these things. Anyways, they're all going to Delaney Grove, and Johnson's now in charge of the case. But also, Logan has a side job to find out what really happened back in the day and figure out the depth of the FBI covering everything up, including the director and everything. So he's like going deep into this conspiracy. They're in Delaney Grove. Lana's wearing a lot of red. We learned a lot of shit about the past. I laugh a lot at Lana filleting Kyle. I laughed so fucking hard, you do not understand. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful. Anyways, other things. They conveniently stole a lot of mirrors from a lot of random houses, which is important in the past because Kyle did try to do some things with some mirrors and also stabbed her with one. That's a thing, right? Right. So they stole a lot of mirrors. There's also they're using a lot of time charged paint around the area to make messages to everyone. Logan learns
Which
from
the paint
Jacob's.
is insane.
I know, right? Uh, Logan learns from Jacob's father that the trial was recorded and gets a recording of the trial, amongst other things, including a lot of videos of Jasmine, which is the name of Lana's mother. That's weird. That's suspicious.
Mhm.
Um, Also, the police thought that it was Jacob who was doing this all, but it can't be Jacob because he's faking being paralyzed.
Which is insane. This
It is
whole
insane.
thing is insane.
Okay. Anyways, so her whole thing is that she's getting the town to no longer follow the sheriff and make the sheriff like the head honcho, so everyone's afraid of him and does whatever he says, or else they'll just disappear, aka get killed off, right?
Oh
Uh,
well.
because uh, once she literally fillets all the skin off of Kyle, sews his eyes open, and then throws him from the bell tower in the church.
Once again, in fucking insane.
I know, so iconic. So now the people, on top of that, mixed with all the other psychological warfare she's throwing at the town is now, team serial killer, no longer telling the sheriff, things, and also instead telling the FBI things. Oops, that's interesting. Anyways, one of the coworkers that works with Logan named Leonard is kind of suspicious of Lana, and he goes on and off about it and decides at the end of the book he's going to tell Logan his findings and believes that Lana's the serial killer. And then Logan goes to Lana. They angry fuck. And he believes that she either is proxy killing, believing that she's doing it for Victoria Evans, or that Jacob used her undiagnosed psychosis beforehand to manipulate her into doing all this. He does not know the
So,
extent of the truth, and so he angry fucks her while she sobs, and then handcuffs her naked to the bed, and silences her when she tries to tell him the truth, and leaves her there. And so then she gets out of that pretty fast, and goes to Jacob's, and she's like, "It's the end game now," and that is how the fourth book ends. Let me tell you, every time she says it's the end game now in this one, I do think of Endgame as in uh the Avengers movie.
I love how we're two different people because you think of the Avengers movie and I think of the Taylor Swift song.
That is funny. Um,
Also,
I
the ending of the fourth one makes me want to bash my head against
I
the
know,
wall.
right? So wild. As soon as Logan realizes, I'm like, yeah, you dumbass, and then he's just like, oh shit, fuck, oh no, oh no. Um, so another just slight fun fact is that at the beginning of each one there is update on the kill list from the previous book of all the people she's killed, and also each book has quotes by specific people. Shakespeare, uh, for the third one, I think his name's like Carocious. I don't remember the one for her mom in the second one. Einstein for her dad in the first one, and for her, it's Voltaire in the fourth one, and in this one, it's all of them combined. Because that was
Hmm.
one thing. I was like, who's gonna be the one for the fifth one? That's who it is. It's all of them. They switch on and off, right? Anyways, this book starts with a Lana Myers quote. That is, love is not supposed to be beautiful. It's supposed to be a raw, gritty struggle that forces you to face the most vulnerable parts of yourself so that when the good times come, you can savor and enjoy them, fully appreciate what they're worth. Otherwise, you take it all for granted. And then it says, fuck the list, it's time for the end game. There is no list in this one. We don't know. I am pretty sure her kill list is over 50 people long at the end of this book.
Oh my god.
Because I forget the amount, it does give the exact amount of number of people that are deputies in this town, or cops in this town. And I remember it
It's a
being,
ridiculous amount.
yeah, I remember it being like somewhere's like close to 30, which makes no sense for a small town, right? And it is brought up that only 3 of them are not going to be killed in all this because they are innocent. And she does kill all of them in this one. In this one scene. So if you combine all the people from before this book, which adds up to about 20, with about 30 other people, plus all the other people she kills in this one.
Um,
Uh-huh!
I guess.
So anyways, right after everything that happens in the 4th one, Logan goes to Hadley, and is like, oh my god, I can't believe you fucking knew, and Hadley tries to explain, and he's like, explain the real thing, and he's like, no, we're done, I'm done with you, we can't be friends anymore,
Oh my
uh,
god.
I can't be friends with someone who watched me fall in love with someone like that and not tell me the truth, and she's like, someone like that, someone who would kill or die to keep you safe, someone who loved you so much that she almost gave up her revenge.
What
And
if
then he's all like, her revenge. And before Hadley can explain, yeah, she's Victoria, you dumbass. The way he literally has won the medical records of Victoria to the explicit knowledge of what was happened to Victoria, and also has seen Lana naked enough times to know that all the stuff like correlates. Like it's obviously her. It doesn't click in his brain any time that
I
people
don't I think
describe
he's
stuff
just in
to him.
denial.
Like between the cutting open her abdomen and then stabbing a piece of glass into her hip, and her face was so broken up that you couldn't even recognize her. And he knows that she's had to have multiple facial reconstructions. He's seen the giant scars across her abdomen, and also she told him that she was stabbed by a piece of mirror glass in her hip.
It's
And it
giving
doesn't click
denial.
the way he's supposed to be a genius, but it does not click. He's like, no. Anyways, he leaves. He very angry. Um,
I have to roll my eyes. I really do. Like, how can you be that deep into
uh-huh.
denial? Like,
So he goes to Leonard and explains, yeah, I angry fucked her and then left her handcuffed to the bed, and Leonard's like, okay. um, um,
I think
basically,
I have issues in my head with that one.
yeah, Leonard's looking into anything that could, hint at what made this psychosis break, other than drug use. There's literally nothing, because the real woman that she took the identity of was a drug addict, and all this stuff. So, yeah, then, Logan's like freaking out, like, yeah, she's lucid, so I don't fucking understand, um, I don't understand how she was able to be manipulated by anyone, including Jacob. And then he's like angry because like he remembers that she calls him Jake, uh, her bisexual business partner.
LOL.
And he's all like, God, I was so blinded by my obsession with her that I did not realize this. And so he's looking at the file, and then he looking at the file of the Kennedy Carlisle, the woman that she stole the identity of. And the thing that makes it click in his brain is that I don't think I've ever brought this up. Lana has green eyes. He loves her green eyes. Kennedy had blue eyes.
Mmm.
So, oh no. um, he does recognize that because they didn't switch the photos in the file, right? Because everyone knew what Lana looked like, so if anyone looked into it, right? But they did switch like the records of like injuries and whatnot. So he's like, okay, look at this file of Kennedy. I can totally tell. Like I've seen Lana's body enough times to know this is her, bitch. Dude. And then but then he's all like, but the eyes, the eyes. So he's like, do you have Victoria's file? And so he looks at Victoria's or Victoria slash Lana's file and sees uh that she's Victoria, not Kennedy. He just
Whoa!
forcefully
Hearing.
silenced uh gang rape victim and then handcuffed her naked to his bed after using her sexually. So he freaks out, and then he's also like, "Wait a second, there was that whole thing where she purposely told me never to tell me about my cases because she didn't want me to get into trouble, and also 100% we met by accident. So they're like, none of this was fucking planned."
Uh huh.
And all
Uh
her
huh.
files were probably so rare with her history, and she trusted me. Uh, and Leonard brings up the fact that probably the only reason why she hasn't suffered a break so far is because of him.
I'm so normal about this.
This is when they officially know that like the file, like the information on the files were switched because like apparently the paper copies, uh, like her injuries match the Victoria file, but on the online version it matches the Kennedy file, right? Um, so anyways, he runs back to the cabin and to the room to find her gone, including all her items.
Lexi, why do you do this to me?
Uh-huh.
I thought you
And I
loved me.
quote, "She saved my life, I cast her aside." Um, so then, I think it's Leonard, messages him, that Christopher, the father of Jacob, he owns one of the hunting cabins, nearby, so he goes there. Um, and then, and then he remembers all the taunting that Lisa did to Lana, and how Lana didn't break any of the times. And how like she had to see the sheriff and like listen to him say all of those things, and she like never even got angry, and he was the one that made her cry and all this, god, right? And so he gets to the cabin, and Jacob's just there sitting on the couch, and he's like, "I knew you were coming, so put your gun away. If I was a threat, you'd already be dead. Fortunately for you, I happen to enjoy breathing, and I'm not sure Lana would be okay with me retaining oxygen if I laid a hand on you." Um,
I'm
yeah. So, Jacob's a little angry that it took Logan this long to figure it out, and says, "Oh, so you figured out the truth now instead of slamming her with accusations and silencing her? Little late, don't you think?" At one point in this conversation, Jacob does stand up from the couch, and he's like, "Fuck it, I knew you weren't paralyzed." And then, Jacob says, "When she told me she was screwing around with an FBI agent, I almost had a fucking brain aneurysm. I'd killed myself trying to make sure no one ever figured out who she was. Then we talked face to face, and she fucking smiled when she said your name. She smiled like there was hope. I forced her to separate the kills by a month, telling her it was more cautious when really..." And, basically Logan realizes this whole time the reason why the kills were purposely separated and all this stuff was Jacob's doing, because Jacob was worried once the killings were done and she was done with her revenge, then she would no have purpose to live anymore. But he, like, she's been killing people basically constantly for the past like book and a half uh on the kill list, and he's fine with that now because she has Logan, and that's who she was willing to live for. But then, yeah, um and then Loki's like, "Why didn't she tell me anything?" And then recognizes that she wanted them to hear the story when they got there. She wanted the maximum impact. Uh, and then Jacob tells him she wanted the maximum impact on you. She may still want revenge, but everything else has been centered around you. She basically prayed the boogeyman would come after her just so she could kill him and end the threat he posed on your life. And you treat her like a monster. Why? Because she kills? Do you treat your military like monsters? Do you stare at your own reflection with such disdain? Because I've seen your file. You've shot and killed 13 serial killers since your career began. Those were real
13?
monsters. I know, right? Those were real monsters, just like all the men Lana has dispatched. I would let you know, Lana has killed more than 13 people at this point. um,
Obviously.
so, And then Jacob brings up the fact, what she's supposed to do, just move on, forget it happened, because the law says it's wrong to exact revenge on monsters unless you have a badge or government decree. This is a girl who spent years training, learning to control her mind, keep her mind sound, something a military or law enforcement doesn't even require. These men, they destroyed her entire family. They destroyed her two fucking kids. And Logan just doesn't know what to say to any of this because he's like, oh fuck.
Mhm.
So there's some of Jacob talking about how he never thought Lana would ever love anyone, especially the way that he loved Marcus. Um, but she loved Logan. She had two visions of how this would go when he eventually figured out. One where Logan loved her as much as she loves him and stands by her no matter what.
Oh my god.
But he chose option two, proving Jacob right. Uh, despite everything what Jacob wanted. And then so he's all like, "Where's Lana?" And he's like, "If Lana wants to be found, she'll let you find her, and you should just let the places fall into place because everything will come to light and everything you'll learn everything truly, all this stuff." And then he's about to leave. Uh, I'm like, 16 times in this chapter, Logan's like, "Where is she? Where is Lana?" Uh, but Jacob says, "I only came here to make sure her words were spoken since you did the worst thing you could possibly do. You silenced her. You refused to listen. Now I have to pray I've enough of a reason for her to want to live."
Oh my god.
Also, Jacob the genius that he is, planned how long this conversation would take, and so, which is perfect, because Logan does pull out his gun on him, and, he's like, "Yeah, I planned this," and so then an ear-piercing blah 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 happens that, makes it so Logan, falls to the ground, ears out, until, long enough for Jacob to get away. And then the grade A line, "My mind feels like it's gone through a mindfuck blender." And then he starts throwing everything around in the cabin, just breaking things. Um, so Lana, good times. She is watching Murdoch, Greg Murdoch. Remember when I said there was going to be even more characters? So he's one of the deputies, right? Very few of the perpetrators have children. Like she recognizes that very few of her victims have children. But he has an 8-year-old, and there is very clear signs of abuse happening, right? Uh, so she's like, I'm gonna kill this man. I have the need to murder. Because she wants to go all numb so she doesn't have to feel the pain of it, what just went down with Logan. And the best way to make her feel numb is for her to kill. Um,
I'm normal.
so Hadley texts her letting her know that Logan knows. She tells Hadley she knows, don't worry about her, and thank you for accepting me and understanding. And then she removes the battery in her phone. Um, And I quote, "The end is coming, but I almost don't even care anymore. My disdain is just one repercussion of turning numb to survive." Um, so she's all like, "I'm killing Murdoch tonight." And Jacob's worried, but she's like, "I'm doing it. I need to stab something. And he needs to be stabbed. Seems like we
Real.
help each other out." She's still being a comedian. Um, so,
What do you think trauma gives you? It gives you the funny haha. I'm living proof of that.
I know, right?
Alrighty. I've been kind of dry the last few episodes. I'm so sorry, guys. I speak as if anybody's listening to this.
So, Jacob shows her the video of Logan having a breakdown and breaking a bunch of things.
LOL.
And her response is, "He doesn't love me like I love him. I love him enough to burn the world to the ground in his name. He loves me just enough to feel betrayed."
Oh my god.
She tries to push Jacob away to protect him, and he's all like, "We made a deal to never do that." And she's like, "I'm sorry. It's linked to this whole scene. It's not really that important, but I'm bringing it up anyways." She worries about what her brother saw in her beforehand, because right before he died, he told her that she was the only one that could get revenge for their family, right? And so she's like, why did he think, like, put that on me? Why, what did he see in me to make that happen? Make it so I was the one to do this. Uh, Jacob tries to console her, and then she's all like, doesn't matter what I am, doesn't matter who I am, all that matters is I finish my mission. Good times.
Uh,
We get a grade A flashback, to at the end of the trial when she and, Marcus are freaking out because, like, they're literally the alibi, along with Jacob and another kid, are a literal alibi for her father. Like, there's no way you could committed all these crimes, right? Uh, and so the sheriff literally has them, slammed against a wall by deputies and arrested, and, the one who, slammed her against a wall was Murdoch. Um, and he made sure to put his whole body weight up against her, and says maybe I
ew.
should teach him a lesson and let him watch all the 6 things he did to our woman, uh, using his daughter.
Ew.
And so, her dad tries to stop this, and so they beat him almost to death, and the whole time she's begging once again for them to listen to the truth, to hear her, but no one listens, no one cares. So, oh, Dev is back in town. Dev is the one who, is the judge's son, and he has since been out doing, a bunch of religious stuff, because there were 13 guys there that night, what happened to her and Marcus, but only 12 of them actually attacked her. Deb did not do anything, and she assumed, that, like, okay, he didn't hurt me, but, like, he didn't do anything about it. But later in, like, the first one, she learns that, Lindy May, another victim that Kyle raped a bunch of times, who tried to stop it, he locked her into a car, and then, when he tried to stop it as well, they threatened to go after his sister next if he tried to stop anything or tell anyone. So right afterwards he left town, like, focus on religion and whatnot. Um, and suddenly he's back in town. Uh, so he's going to the church, and so, she goes to the church as well to, talk to him, right? To figure out why he's in town. She, uh, creeps back in the back of the house, or in the house, just church. God, me words, no. Um, I quote, I'm happy to report that I don't burst into flames, so maybe I'm not completely consumed by evil just yet, despite the fact that I desecrated the church bell tower with Kyle's mostly skinless body.
That's actually hilarious, but
I
also
know, I'm
relatable.
telling you, this is secretly a comedy.
That's how it feels walking into church as a gay person. I don't care.
I know, right? Dev is, on his knees praying with, his eyes closed and tears streaming down his face, and she's like, well, that's unexpected. Basically, the FBI are in town square trying to go door to door, figure out, find new evidence, uh, about what happened with, the original killer, and then, the sheriff and the deputies and, Johnson are trying to figure out who she is. um, and also, the detectives have learned that the first killing by the original killer happened on the anniversary of her parents' first date. Um, and that each of the victims, minus the sheriff's daughter, this is an important fact, have, same features as her mother. This is very important when it comes to who
Mm.
the killer is, the original killer is. Let me tell you, it's wild time. So, uh, he immediately recognizes who she is. And she's like, "You're the first one to recognize me." That's surprising. Right?
Yeah,
He's all like, "I'm
very.
gonna go to the FBI to do the right thing." And she's like, to tell them a dead girl rose from the dead to exact revenge. And he's all like, freak out, like, no, 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 no. To tell them what happened. And that Diana was the one to call him, who is the one of the other women who tried to stop what happened that night, and they threatened to, kill her son if she didn't. And this is also important because her son, when she goes to tell the FBI what happens in the very beginning of the fourth one, that
Yes.
night, because Deb was the one who told her, so they're still in contact, right? She tells her son, who has a hotshot lawyer girlfriend in New York, to stay with her because she has like security and whatnot. Um, that's very important for another thing, because guess who they're gonna try to frame in this one?
Oh my god.
Um, and so he's all like, "Hey, no, I came to tell the FBI about the parts they don't know, the parts about Kyle's mother, um, and who the real killer was, the original one, to clear her father's name, to give her family the rest it deserves, and then her soul can be in peace."
Mm.
And he's like, "I think you're selling your soul to the devil for revenge. I'm trying to help you before it's completely gone. I want to save you." And she says, "If you wanted to save me, you should have done it 10 years ago." And then she
Oh
pulls
my
out
god.
her knife and is like, "I'm too far gone now. You had your chance. Instead, you walked from the sidelines as they tore my soul from my body. It was anger or brokenness. Which path do you think I chose?" And he's like, "There's no soul above saving." And so she throws a dive. He's screaming. Um, and it's stuck in a picture of Sheriff Cannon, the sheriff.
Why is there a picture of the sheriff at a church?
Because he is the largest donator to the church. So there's just a giant portrait of him in the church.
That's so weird.
I'm telling
When
you, the
people
culty
donate to
vibes.
the church, you get giant portraits. You get little plaques around.
Okay, right?
It's
Yeah.
just like that. What the fuck?
So, anyways, she tells him that she's stronger, faster, smarter, and far more lethal than they believe her to be, or could ever be, and she can take down anyone. If I want you dead, you'd already be dead. Kyle had the sheriff's love and his protection. Yeah, I flayed him and hung him from the tower for the entire town to witness his demise. Don't piss me off, Deb. I'm not the girl you turned your back on 10 years ago. This girl will carve out your spine if I find you back to me again. And never call me Victoria again, or I'll cut out your tongue like I almost decided to do already. I'm not certain you're in the clear, so don't remind me about you again. Understood?
Oh my god.
And then he starts crying and apologizing. And
I
she
like to
almost breaks
know.
and kills him, which is a sign of her possibly going a little crazy now that Logan's not there. And she says, "Don't make me regret showing you mercy when I've held it from all others. Don't make me return for you as well, and your father's still on my list." He's all like, "My mother and sister are innocent." And he's all like, "Yeah, your mother's innocence is debatable, but she's not on my list. Your sister was always sheltered from the rumors when she went off to college. For her own sake, make her less naive, Deb. It's a cruel world to those who don't believe such evils exist. I would know." Um,
I would like you to know the way she was laying is
so then
kind of
she
weird.
leaves the church, and then Deb chases after her, which is so wild. It's nighttime. There's no like lights on the street, so like it's complete darkness on a
Why would
street,
she chase after her anyways?
and
She
he
just went
chases
into like,
after her. He knows she has a knife and that she's crazy. Um, and he's just like, "I'm going after the feds, but I want you to know it's for the right reasons." And he's like, "Where are you going?" She says, "To kill someone." Um, and he's is like, "You didn't ask who the original killer is when I said I knew." And she starts walking away before saying over her shoulder, "Because I already know." Cough, cough. Um, so Logan goes back to Hadley, and he's like, "So I fucked up,"
no shit.
and then he explains he fucked her out of anger, and then cuffed her to the bed, left her naked and exposed, and I didn't let her speak. Um, and Hadley's immediately pissed on her behalf.
She should be, because what the fuck?
I know, right? Hadley's like, "She's not what you thought she was. She's a scarred girl with more shit in her life than any one person should ever have to endure, and you just took your turn shitting on her. Great job, Bennett. Great fucking job."
Oh my god.
He's all like, "I know I fucked up, but I can't find her. Uh, help me, please." And she's like, "Define your version of fixing it." And he's like, "I don't know. I don't know what to do. I feel fucked up.
I fucking hope so.
Uh huh. And then she explains that after everything, when she learned, she was confused about what to do too. Um but Lana killed her really fucked up stepfather, um, and was really conflicted until she realized there were only 69 pictures. Her picture was missing. Um, she says that basically she protected me, and a psychopath wouldn't do that. Um, Lana has lived through more pain than most people can endure. The physical pain alone from the numerous surgeries she needed to rebuild her facial structure was bad enough. Imagine the psychological toll that took on her. She lost her family, she lost her home, she gave up her identity so that it couldn't be taken away. She's stronger than you're giving her credit for, and yeah, maybe I'm a sick motherfucker, but I'm on her side. I'm Team Hadley and Lana. Friendship forever. They need matching bestie necklaces. Thank you very much.
I agree. I
And then
very much
Hadley's like,
agree.
you were everything to her. I've never been loved like that. She saved your life, Logan. This town tried to kill you, and she saved you. Personally, I think it's over the top to stab a guy for the man you love, but still perfectly effective.
I'm sorry,
Um,
pause. She's correct, but also the line, I've never been loved like that, or whatever she said.
uh-huh.
I'm fine.
So, he asks if she knows where Lana is, and she's like, I have an idea, but I'm not gonna tell you until you pick the right side. Let me know when you decide. Um, and so then Dev shows up, and he's looking for Logan. And says that he's Devin Thomas, and they're like, oh shit, we know about you, okay. Uh, and they're like, hey, you should be in this town, cause like there's a serial killer killing people from that night, right? And so, he's all like, I have information you need, and Logan's like, you're too late. We have tons of statements about what the 13 of you did that night. And he's all like, yeah, about that. That night has haunted me my every waking and sleeping moment for the past decade. I may not have committed the same sins, but I was just as guilty. And if the Scarlet Slayer decides I need to die, I won't blame her in the least. Um, and so that's when Logan recognizes that Lana's already visited him, uh, because he knew that she's a she. So he's all like, I'm here to tell you about Kyle's mother, right? And so Devin asked why they haven't arrested anybody if you knew what they if they know what they did that night, right? And he's like, there's no physical evidence, but if you'll sign a confession, I'll gladly take it in. Um, and he's all like, if I feel like that's what God wants me to do, I'll do it. For now, let me tell you about Jane, who was Kyle's mother. Um, so okay, yeah, I thought this fact was brought up. This was the one thing that I wasn't sure was brought up in the fourth one or this one. It is this one. Okay, fun time, information time. The first several women found in the racial killings had no DNA evidence on their bodies. Johnson came during the middle of those, and after he pretty much decided Evans was the killer, DNA evidence suddenly starts turning up at all the new scenes. Um, and so they're like, hey, how did they get his semen to put inside the bodies? Valid question. Um,
Yeah.
And the answer is Jane. The sheriff had his claws deep in her. He hated that woman, and as punishment for hiding son for so many years, he kept her there. Threatened to kill her if she ever left, and she knew for a fact it wasn't a bluff. Jane was the town outcast. The only person who was ever nice to her was Robert. He was nice to everyone. He loved his wife so much that he could never move on after her death. But even a man who loves a ghost still has needs, if you know what I mean. Um,
Oh my god.
So, basically, they question how he knows about the specific detail. And he says, Kyle bragged about it. And that he came back from trying to convince Lindy to run away before Kyle got finished with Marcus and Victoria. And he heard Kyle telling Victoria that his, and I quote, cunt mother had been the one to bring Robert down in the end. Uh, she gave Johnson the used condoms with Robert's semen in them after Sheriff threatened her life. In the bragging, Kyle also brings up the fact that after brags about the fact that afterwards the sheriff killed Jane so that she couldn't tell anyone. Kyle knew this, and laughed about it. The way that he did not know that his son was a psychopath. I mean, honestly. Not the shock emoji. What the hell is that? What the
That's
hell?
how I feel right now.
So he's all like, hey, guys, I think you should look into Kyle. First make sure he's really dead. And Leonard's there also, by the way. And he's all like, yeah, he's dead.
He's dead
And
as hell.
I know, right? The original killer went by the Nighttime Slayer. And Dev thinks that Kyle. They're like, yeah, what? Because if you remember from, I think it's the fourth one, that is a thought process they had. But they ruled it out because Kyle's specific psychosis definitions of blah 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 would go against raping and killing his own sister. So um so he's all like, well, he was so brutally killed, that means that someone else also believes, aka Lana, believes that Kyle was the original killer. Uh and Logan does say he was killed a little more brutally, but because he was the one who orchestrated the night with Marcus and Victoria died. Why do you think he was the killer? And Deb says the world was a puppet strings for Kyle. His father covered up the worst of his indiscretions, never seeing the pure evilness in him. Kyle could charm anyone into seeing the best, but when he unleashed his dark side, it was consuming, suffocating, and downright scarring.
I
Um,
I genuinely have no words when it comes to
I know,
this
right?
because how how
I know, right? Then he explains that if they don't think Kyle's capable of doing that to his own sister, then you don't know anything about Rebecca. Um, her mother died of ovarian cancer when Rebecca was just 5, and she was only a year older than Kyle, which means probably while her mother was going through treatment for ovarian cancer, he was having an affair that led to another child.
uh-huh.
So when Kyle first was brought by Jane to the sheriff, Rebecca hated him. I get, like, you shouldn't blame it on the
Yeah.
child, but I get it. So the sheriff favored her for obvious reasons, and it was the one person in town Kyle wasn't allowed to lay a finger on. If he'd ever so much as threatened Rebecca, the sheriff would have ended him without pause. Yet Rebecca was put on display in the way she was, which drove the sheriff over the edge. Um, Sounds like one sadistic mind came up with all that, and Kyle's IQ will tell you he was capable of orchestrating each piece of the puzzle, knowing they'd eventually frame Robert. Um, and he's like, "Well, why Robert?" And Dev explains that Johnson railroaded the investigation, certain it was Robert, partially because of the day and the victimology. Um, Secondly, Victoria was always on Kyle and Morgan's radar. Constant battle between those two. Victoria looked a lot like Jasmine. Uh, so maybe the whole point was that the victims were looking like Victoria, not Jasmine, right? Uh, Lastly, Rebecca was a typical mean girl, and mean girls tend to pick on lesser privileged. Rebecca went after Victoria on a regular basis, running her mouth, mocking her family and her janitor father. One day she went too far, saying something about Victoria's dead mother. Victoria grabbed Rebecca by the hair of her head and slammed her face into the locker.
Hell yeah.
Rebecca ended up with a busted nose. The sheriff tried to come after Victoria, but Robert had some kind of dirt on him that made him back off. Sheriff
Oh,
Cannon doesn't like being backed into a corner. Then Rebecca, the girl who so often bullied Victoria, is the one disgraced the most, right? Um, you might be wondering,
there's
hey, what's
too
that
much
dirt
information.
that Evans had on the sheriff? Some financial stuff he'd used to get out of taxes or something. But don't worry, the sheriff made sure that didn't go into the trial against Evans. Don't worry, don't worry. Um,
What the hell is happening?
but Logan's like, yeah, Kyle wasn't the killer. No doubt he was on the fast track to become serial killer, but it wasn't him. Uh, right? The reason they know this is because Kyle never went to the trial. Kyle was never there because he generally didn't give a fuck. The killer would have wanted to watch each and every event unfold as he planned and revel in the downfall of Evans in person. So that's why they know it wasn't Kyle who was the original killer. Anyways, Lana's going after Murdoch now. Right? Um, she binds him, to a chair, and he's gagged.
There's so much information.
So, she, beat him up, knocked him out, and then dragged him up the stairs to the courtroom. Uh, I think it's also broad daylight when this is happening.
Which is so funny to me.
She was able to get in with Murdoch's key. Uh, so,
Well, sorry, Bestie, I promise I'm going to change this.
So she's on a call with Jake, and he's calling help because Hadley has shown up to their location, their new base of operations. And Lana's like, if she's there alone, that means she's there to help. Just see what she wants, and I mean it, don't hurt her. And Jake says, great, I'll just make nice with the FBI while you're killing a deputy and a judge. And she says, exactly, and then hangs up on him.
LOL.
She turns on the old vinyl record that the judge has on the player, waiting for him to return to his chambers after a long day of hiding or burning any remaining evidence from her father's case.
Honestly, you walk into a place and you see someone tied up, and your first instinct is to not check your surroundings. Like,
I know, she wasn't even like hidden in a dark corner or anything. She was out in the open.
No brain cells.
She explains she's the girl whose life you destroyed. I just have a different face, considering the lynch mob you and the sheriff sent after us crushed the old one. You even cast away your son for not following through with the barbaric show the others put on. Did you think him less of a man for not being able to rape a 16-year-old girl or 17-year-old boy? And then he's like, you're dead. And she says, so I've heard over and over. Funny thing about death, someone has to do a damn good job at killing a girl like me. So far, everyone has sucked at the task.
Insane.
So she is, having a fun time torturing, and she's all like, hey, tell me how, you suppressed evidence, how you overlooked eyewitness testimonies and ruled them indismissible. And he's like tries to blame it on the sheriff. Also, I would like you to know Requiem is playing so loud that no one can hear any of the screams that are happening. And she's like, don't try to blame. Tell me your part, Judge, and maybe I won't leave you hanging from the church tower just like I did Kyle. This is when Murdoch finally recognizes how crazy she fucking is, and that's when he goes completely still trying not like stopping, trying to untie the knots and whatnot, trying to get free. So they're all like freaked out because if she could kill Kyle, what can't she do? All this stuff. No warning, she goes up to Murdoch and she slices the knife across his torso. Cutting him. She goes again and goes even deeper. Everything on the inside spills out, intestines rolling from his body like an uncurling ball of yarn.
It's giving me giggling at half decapitation.
I know, right? So, she's all like, ooh, fun times. He's dead, obviously. The judge is, like, freaking out, throwing up, and she comes up behind him. And she's all like, this is so anticlimactic. These are the men who I've viewed for so long. One who feeds his child and wife, but one couldn't land a single punch on me. One who cries on the floor in the fetal position, praying I'll disappear like a bad dream, instead of fighting for his life. And so, she slices his throat. But she's not getting her normal happy feelings from this. The blood sprays everywhere.
Fun.
Oh, this line you'll love. The blood sprays across the room and gurgles of agony are all that escapes his lips as all other sounds struggle to make it past the gash in his throat.
Oh my god.
I thought you'd appreciate that.
I'm sorry, I'm imagining 2 dead bodies on the floor and a church covered in blood, and I have to giggle.
So she gets out her paintbrush. Instead of painting the walls in blood, she paints a specific message. And I quote, "Message for the man who broke my heart. A message for the man I never should have loved." It's completely juvenile, but I can't help myself. So she leaves, and Hadley, is
What
there.
does this say?
There's a car there, and she's like, "Is it Hadley?" I don't know. So she's, wary, so she takes a knife out and, is sneaking around, to try to find them, to find, Jake and Hadley in bed together. Uh-huh.
Plot twist? What the fuck? Pause. What the fuck? How did we get here?
The two
Why am I
bisexuals ended
crying?
up together. Yep.
Why am I crying? What the fuck is happening?
Honestly, they stop mid pump when she barges the door open, and they're like, "Dude, what the fuck?" And so, Jake's like, "Hey, close the door," and starts pumping again. And
Oh
she's
my
just like,
god!
she's like, "No, not dealing with this," and goes to take a shower. Um, her first thought is to call Logan. Her second thought is how stupid that is, considering I can never speak to him again. And her third thought is, I really need a drink. So she
What
takes a
the
shower.
fuck is happening?
And Jake comes into the bathroom while she's taking her shower. And he's all like, "Hey, so, what was that?" And she explains that she heard noises that didn't sound like pleasure, which really should say something about your skills. So I barged in to save your life from a lesbian who had your dick captive in her vagina. What the hell, Jake? And he says you said to play nice.
Oh my god!
So, Hadley walks to the bathroom. There's like this whole thing where they're talking about how, it's hard to find someone like them who's like so good at hacking and all this stuff, and reminiscing about stuff. They're cute, okay? I can't tell you anything else.
Is happening? I'm already sitting down.
So she explains the reason why she felt safe being with Jake is because, since Lana killed her stepfather, some of the unease has lifted. And already knew when she met Jake that he was the same as her. Um, and so felt safe, and bada bing bada boom. Um, so she's all like, "Okay, can we finish this conversation when I'm done taking a shower?" And Hadley says, "You've seen what I'm working with. It's only fair I see what you have."
Oh! Oh!
And then,
Oh!
and then
Oh!
Hadley, I know, right? And then Hadley explains that Jake ripped her clothes, and she didn't bring any spare ones with her. So can she borrow something from Lana? And Lana's like, "I only brought red, but you can take whatever you want." And Hadley's upset, because,
I am ripping her clothes.
I know,
I
right?
have to leave.
Hadley's upset because as a redhead, like, wearing red is kind of difficult at times. So, and she's all like, "I thought you had black hoodie or something." And Lana explains, "My black hoodies are kill shirts and probably have traces of blood on them. Not a good idea to wear." So the FBI have already found the judge and the deputy. You want to know what that message she left for Logan was? And I quote,
Yes.
"They stole, they lied, they brokered peace with the devil in exchange for the souls of an innocent family. Yet you call me the monster. Fuck you!" And then a heart.
I need to sit down, and I'm already sitting down. Like,
This is
maybe
why
I
I
need
told
to
you to
sit
take
on
your
the floor.
batteries.
I took the batteries, and I had coffee, and I took the other one that we don't have a name for.
The L word, I'm telling you, that's a great name for it.
They do both start with L. I'm losing.
Logan. Logan is talking to Leonard, and he's like, "I silenced her, so now she's getting her words in." And Leonard's worried because, it's not even a rage or a threat to us. It's a literally "fuck you" true X sounding, message, which might make people do the math. But Logan says that no one knows that they broke up. He just said that she went home because he was convinced she wasn't safe. Um, and Leonard questions what happens if they see her in town. And, he recognizes it's probably not a coincidence. The day Dev comes back into town, Lana decides to kill his father. Uh,
See, I
Lisa then comes in. You remember Lisa, his ex, and says that message is about as petty as your girlfriend, which makes Leonard choke on air. And he says the petty girl who keeps trying to make her jealous. Oh no, that's what Hadley says. Hadley is like, and then he recognizes that she's Hadley is wearing different colors or clothes that she was wearing before earlier that day, and that includes a red shirt. And he remembers the many conversations they've had where she talks about how wearing red with her red hair is very difficult. And he knows someone who only brought red shirts to town, and that is Lana. So,
Kiki Roni. This is crazy, Kiki Roni.
yeah, I know,
Are
right?
you hearing this,
Lisa's
Kiki?
all like, but she spit gum in my hair? Logan's like, wait, what? When? And Lisa says, after I accidentally walked in on you too. And Hadley's like, and you provoked her.
Bro, it was just
Twice,
gum.
I
Be
would have slapped
serious.
you. Lana went for the less obvious approach. And then they learned that Elise, the one who was in the car crash with Lisa, who has like two broken bones in one leg and a dislocated shoulder and a bunch of broken ribs,
Yeah.
she's already been sent back to the FBI headquarters. That's weird. That's the second person, because Craig was also sent back recently. So that's the second person. That's just weird. So they're like, okay, they're just slowly sending us back one at a time until they can take to the town over again. But short of charges, the director has no way of to pull them completely. So Leonard's all like, "Hey, hot take. She could have easily killed Lisa. She's fiercely protective of you, even killed to keep you safe. Yet Lisa provokes her and over, and she just spit gum in her hair." Which means she still has a firm grip on reality. The file is on Murdoch's 8-year-old daughter's medical records.
Oh my god.
Yep. That Lana purposely left there in the blood, right? The file includes her wrist has been broken twice, and she can't even play sports anymore because of how weak it is. Because once you get bone is like weaker. Not you
Yeah.
saying your face is stuck in shock mode. God damn. Other bones have been broken as well, including her ribs on multiple occasions. His wife's chart is also there and looks 30 times worse. Oh no, it's not actually there. And if it was there, he is like it probably looked so much worse. Um, Hadley says she can hack into her file though, and they're like, "Why would this be left here?" And Hadley says, "Because someone wanted you to see this."
Yeah.
And then
Someone.
Logan asks, "How
Someone.
much do you want to bet the deputies and the sheriff knew?" Um, and he's all like, "We need to go to Murdoch's wife before the sheriff gets to her." And so Colin's the guy who is helping Logan from the FBI headquarters get evidence against Johnson and the director to figure like for the cover up and everything, right? Uh, he is saying they still need physical evidence. Johnson backed the sheriff on the matter of one of the deputies trying to kill me as being one rogue cop. As of right now, he's having to play politics since the subcommittee nor the Senate has convened over the actions of Johnson and the director. So, just some background conspiracy things happening. So,
Like, I'm trying to do something else and then you say something and it's just my jaw's on the floor again.
so Lana's waiting at Murdoch's house because she knows the sheriff's gonna send someone to kill his wife and child. Um, and she recognizes Murdoch may have been a sick fuck, but he was a smart one, and he knew it was stupid to burn all the evidence he was tasked to do. Um, and he knew it was wise to harbor and keep it safe in case the sheriff ever decided to turn on him. So there's a good chance he knows where that evidence is and how that could help Logan go against Johnson. Um, so good times. There's a car that comes up the front to come inside. She's going in through the back, and she's like, "I guess I'll be showering twice tonight." Cheyenne, the widow of Murdoch, is looking at a picture of him, smiling, saying, "Rot in hell, you stupid bastard. Let's see if the devil lets you lay your hands on him." or if he shows you a taste of your own medicine. Lana lets her presence known to Cheyenne and says that she's there to save her. Two men are coming. One will come from the front, one from the back. They know Murdoch hid some evidence. Um, and she doesn't recognize the people who come because Sheriff Orts outsourced the job. Um, one of the men, so she's like fighting these two guys, and one of them asks who she is, and she's like, everyone wants my name. There's a Rumpelstiltskin joke in there somewheres. Lana, we need to talk about your comedy and how it's great, and I love it. One of the guys does shoot her, and it does graze her cheek. And she slams her knife into the man's throat behind her, and then grabs his gun and firing it twice, without having to look at the other guy, just killing them real fast.
Um,
And I quote, "I brush my shoulders off," but that seems a bit cocky. These two were the Durham brothers. Uh, they play poker with the sheriff, and sometimes they handle things he doesn't want his deputies involved in. Good times. Cheyenne's talking about what happened that night and says, I thought it was a horrible urban legend, something to make the sheriff and Kyle seem all the more untouchable. I came to town after you were gone, and I barely heard whispers about anything. Then one night, Greg got drunk. It was the first time he hit me. I always stepped between him and my daughter, but I couldn't leave. He wouldn't let me. Me the sheriff would help him hunt me down, and he'd kill me and take Alyssa away. I wanted him dead. I even went to the sheriff hoping Greg's threats of Cannon helping was that abusive bastard were all a bluff, but they weren't. The sheriff listened to all I had to say, then he called Greg right in front of me. Dealt with a broken jaw as punishment. That's when he told me he had all the evidence he needed to keep the sheriff in line, and that the next time I tried to run or get help, he'd slit my throat in front of our daughter. She explains he has a safe. Uh,
oh my god.
and she knows the numbers, and she's like, "Oh, I'll get it for you." And Lana's like, "No, give it to Logan, specifically SSA Bennett. Don't give it to Johnson." Speaking of Logan is suddenly there. Whoop! Um, so, she says, have him escort you out of town. Uh, tell him you never saw me. Only knew I was coming here because you heard the commotion. You were in the bathroom with your daughter the entire time. She gives her the name of someone who can get her new identity and get her out. Don't go anywhere with family or friends. They'll track you. Leave your cell phone. The person who can get her new identity and out is named Olivia. That is important for later on. Uh, and she'll give you funds, all that stuff. Logan decided to go through the back door while Leonard went through the front door. And so as she's trying to sneak out through the back, Logan's coming in, so she has to hide in the uh, closet there, the jacket closet,
Oh my god.
coat closet, right? So he almost opens up the closet door, but he doesn't because the body. But she can't get out without being seen. So she just has to stand there and wait. And Logan's all like, she knew they'd come for her. And Leonard's like, yeah, and if she hadn't been here, there'd be two different bodies lying on her feet right now. The bullet that hit her cheek is going to leave a scar, by the way. That's important. Not really, but. So eventually they leave the house to take Cheyenne, and she sneaks out the back and goes to the woods, and she's like, I'm leaving a body trail right to my house if I go directly there. So she makes sure there's no one around, and then strips off the hoodie, the boots, and top layer of pants she's wearing, uh, and throws them in a bag, and throws them in there. So she's basically wearing like a tank top, leggings, and socks only. Um, but she feels like she's being watched, so she starts running on the dirt ground. And a quote paint is something I've learned to ignore a long time ago. She swears she's being watched. She's like freaking out. And so she drops the bag and spins, ready to like collide in someone's face with her elbow. Um, uh, but a hand stops her, and my breath seizes as another hand comes around, grabbing my other arm in one smooth motion. I'm shoved against a tree, and a hard body bears against mine. The only thing that halts my lethal reaction are the familiar blue staring directly into my eyes.
Oh.
My breaths turn painful as I heave for air that escapes me. It's not because he's hurting me, it's because it hurts just to see him. His eyes are hard as they level me, and his grip stays tight, even though we both know I can escape him if I wanted to. The problem is doing it without hurting him. And she tells him that she won't arrested. And he's like, so you'll do whatever it takes to stay free? And she says, no, I won't do whatever it takes, but I won't be arrested. And he's all like, also, he's looking at her lips right now. We all recognize this as Logan, right? He's looking at her lips right now, and he's like, you could break away with ease right now, couldn't you?
I'm on the ground right now. Like,
she starts to move, to get away, and instead of gripping her harder, he eases his hold, and, cups her face and studies her eyes. And
I'm so
he's all like, I had no idea you were Victoria. I fucked up. I never would. And she's like, does it really matter? Um,
oh
and
oh.
she's starting to cry, and she says, I'm still the twisted monster of the night, while you're the honest hero in the light. The poetry.
I can't do this.
And then, and I quote, usually, as everyone is aware, I hate surprises, but my heart ends up beating to a new rhythm when Logan surprises me by crushing his lips to mine. She's literally basically sobbing as they're making out.
Why is that me coded?
His hands go from restrained to needy, as he pulls her towards him. He lifts her, and her legs wrap around his waist, and he pushes her back up against. I know, right? He pushes her back up against the tree, and then he says, "I never would have hurt you like that if I'd known." And she says, you didn't hurt me physically, and as far as sex goes, I could have stopped it. I knew you knew. I knew what was happening. I just loved you enough to take your anger knowing I deserved it.
Oh my
And he's
god.
so like, you didn't deserve it. I'm sorry. For the first time in my life, I have no clue what to do. And part of her wants to corrupt him to make him see what I'm doing is a twisted version of the right thing, despite the torture and massacre I still have planned. But to do that would be stealing his soul and condemning it to join me. Just knowing he hasn't told the others and he's holding me to him right now is more than I ever realistically expected. But to go forward with me would be irrevocably damn him to my same fate. He says, I love you. She starts crying again. And then he's like, which is why I'm begging you to end this now and go away with me. And it's tempting. And if it wasn't for the sheriff, she'd do it. She'd walk away from the revenge. But she can't walk away from all the innocent lives still being scarred. And then he says, don't decide right now. Right now, just be with me. And for tonight, we can simply forget the rest of the world exists. And she asks about the case. And she's like, his case is solved. He has the murderer in his arms. And then he says they can do it without me for tonight. Leonard will cover for me. She's thinking now I have to stop myself from dragging him to the pits of hell with me. Basically, they hear tempted into what, so they decide to go back to the cabin. To have some nasty times. They get to the cabin. He sees all the security, and he's like, "You really have the entire town under surveillance." But yet, I haven't spotted a single camera. She recognizes the internal struggle he's fighting, right? Just like it's not just about you. You're good. I won't take that away. And then Hadley comes in. And he's like, what's going on?
Well.
And Jake's all like, what's going on? And Logan's like, we're going to the bedroom to have a night off. And so she is covered in blood, and she's all like, okay, I don't want you to see me like this, so, I'm gonna go take a shower. And also, he's wearing a white shirt, and some of the blood from her doing the killings got on his white shirt, right? And she feels like the devil's advocate who has lured a saint to the edge of a cliff and now beckons him to jump. She has a note that she's already written, basically, shower sex. We both know that tonight might be the last time we're ever allowed to love each other. The gray area has only a brief window of opportunity before it's closed. We're back on our opposing sides. He says, I can't let you go. And she thinks, I can't let you hold on.
Oh my god.
So
why would you do this?
It's 3 in the morning. They've basically banged, and then occasionally taken breaks to talk, but basically banged all night long. She's pressed against him.
I'm once again asking, why would you do this to me?
Uh, he he asks how she learned to fight and whatnot, and then he says, "Should we test to see who's a better fighter?" And she says, "Agent Bennett, I think it'd be emasculating if I kicked your ass. So don't worry, I'll hold back if you ever get brave enough."
Oh my god.
He says that now that all your secrets are out, maybe you can like actually share a little thing about your past. And she's like, "You already heard everything they did that night. Do you really need more detail?" And he's like, "I was talking about the past before all that happened. Something that would tell me about the girl you used to be." And she says, "The girl I used to be is dead. Knowing how naive and fragile she was won't do anything but break your heart right now, because you'll picture me as her. You've had the real me the entire time, Logan. Nothing between us or how I was with you was a lie. Only snippets of my past were altered for the sake of keeping my secret." Lana's mother would take her to work with her. Remember, she used to work as a coroner before she died.
Yes.
So from a young age, Lana was a little too comfortable around dead people because of that. And I quote, "She presses her hand to my chest, holding it against my heart, and her eyes stay fixed there. We didn't know how messy love could be or how jealous people would lash out." She talks about how every night her parents would slow dance in the living room after the kids went to bed.
Ah!
This is important. And I quote Logan, "But if I hear the details from her mouth, I may end up joining her on her killing spree. I just don't think I'm strong enough to hear her break down and tell me what they did without killing everyone else involved in all of it. My mind is fucked. All she has to do is ask me to join her, and I'll be at her side. So I'm grateful that she doesn't, because I'm not sure what to feel about this." And then he stands up and plays music on his phone, and they dance together
But
in the
see,
middle of the bedroom.
what if I I'm in your walls, by the way? And I need you to go somewhere. I need you to get up and leave, and I
Um,
need you.
so he asks why I choose the name Lana Myers. She says that my mother said she and my father always argued about my name before I was born. They agreed immediately on Marcus. Um, it was one of the few arguments they ever held. She wanted Victoria because of my late grandma. My father loved the name Lana, had heard it when he was traveling as a teen with his parents. He said he felt like I was going to be Alana and not some real regal girl like the name Victoria suggests. Both her parents said that they themselves were right about her name. Um, her dad said that the definition of Lana suited her perfectly, um, and all this stuff. And Lana, you may be like, what does that mean? And it depends on the country. Princess Little Rock, sun right, but Dad said it was the Hawaiian meaning above all else that stood me, afloat, calm as still waters. It took a storm to offer me a calm. But also, you may be like Myers, like Michael Myers, like Halloween, and her dad was a horror movie buff, old school horror. Mom always teased him that he does like scary in your face psychopaths with mommy issues. Michael Myers was one of his favorites. He asked, "Do you know who the original killer was?" She's like, "Yeah." But what can I tell you? Um,
Who is it? Jesus Christ!
and then there's an emergency meeting happening. They're interrupted because there's an emergency meeting. He doesn't want to go, and she says, "You're good, Logan. It's the thing I love most about you. Do whatever you feel is right. Don't worry about me. I'll be okay." And he says, "This isn't goodbye, Lana. I'll be back tonight. We may have to actually sleep, but I will be back." They're taking different sides of the town to do things. Johnson and the director are about to railroad the entire investigation. The Johnson's target to frame is Diana's son, despite his numerous alibis and the fact he states away. Jake's having reservations about the finalizing the plan and letting things just happen instead of her risking herself. And I quote, "Today Logan will leave. Tonight Logan will be free to forget me. His life will go on, and he'll eventually just see this as a blemish in his otherwise flawless character." Um, and recognizes that, and I quote, about Jake, "He's worried about me surviving. I see a life too empty to be concerned with the notion of survival." So the team is, other than Johnson, is ordered to go back to headquarters in Quantico. Um,
Um,
Yeah.
We're gonna go with the no on that one, huh?
And so he calls up Collins, right, and says it's out of his hands. Obviously they have a leak times, and he recognizes that Lana and Jake knew about this, right? And I quote: "The director has called a meeting to see about having you removed from all your duties pending an investigation into your actions. He's claiming your entire team is compromised and exhibiting signs of empathy with the killer. He even said you helped a woman child leave town despite her husband's or murder, along with 2 other murders in her home. Before he even reported the latter 2 murders, I told you to be discreet when looking into the past case. You ignored me." And he says he's not playing politics, but I have to play the game until I can see if the evidence you recovered is enough. If you don't leave and return to us willingly, Johnson will arrest you, and I can't save you from anything while you're there. And basically saying that they could totally frame him and then kill him, right? Keep a lid on what you've discovered. Just come back. Don't let them toss you in one of their cells. You know what happens in that town. And Logan
Okay.
recognizes if that happens, Lana will come after him, and I quote: "Too many violent memories from the past would have her risking her life to come after me, and that's the only reason I won't risk it." So, then the television. You remember how the sheriff owns like everything, including the broadcasting system? Well, they've hacked into it. This is where the Saw reference comes in. Okay, we got good times with the Saw reference. So, on the TVs, is at first it's just a few pictures of the town at sunset, all of them flickering around at random. But then a voice comes on, speaking like the guy from Saw, saying,
Oh my god.
"Citizens of Delaney Grove, it's time to purge the town. You have until sunset to leave to save yourself. We're claiming this town now. For your sins you shall repent. For your past you shall endure the nightmares you caused. And for your eyes that you close so willingly, now you shall see." He starts to recognize what the slideshow is. And because Kyle had someone record everything that happened that night, and he watches as Victoria tries to stop them, and they hold her down 13-2. Basically meaning that Logan is forced to watch the gang rape of his own girlfriend.
Oh
As
my
you can
god.
imagine, he's not happy. He's like, "Oh my fucking god!" The sheriff is freaking out. And then the next scene is the gang rape of their father Robert, right? Now this is the point where I remind you that Kyle was there to watch all of this, right? I have a very strong theory. It's not confirmed or denied, but basically the only person there who could have recorded this, because there was the guy who worked in the coroner's office who was beat up uh for trying to stop it, right? All the deputies are doing the actions in it, and the sheriff is there ordering them. So the only person that could have recorded this is Kyle, which
Oh
means
my god.
Kyle recorded that and then had a camera set up to record everything that he did to Victoria and Marcus.
What the hell?
So the sheriff's freaking out. And the voice on the screen is saying, "Hear no evil, see no evil." As it's like playing the 2 crimes next to each other. Um, and then it fades to black while a cloaked silhouette comes into view. And says, "Speak no evil." Um, and then it flashes across the TV the faces of the people watching the TV. So basically, the people are screaming because their faces are on the screen watching what they let happen, and then they're screaming about them being shown themselves. Um, and it's happening to like everyone at the same time. Like they're just cycling through everyone of the town. Iconic. And then the voice says, "Sundown or the monster comes for you." And then
I
takes off a mask to review. To instead of seeing a face, it's a mirror reflecting nothing, but like the message is the person you see in the reflection is the mirror, and the monster, blah blah blah. You know, you get the point. Let them die. Now save yourselves while you can. And oh, also they painted what looks like wings imprinted in the blood where Marcus was. Good times. And then white noise fills there. And every channel's same. And he's still on the phone with Collins, and Collins is like, "You still have to come back. There's nothing I can do." just hurry so we can clear this all up. And hopefully it will all backfire on them in time for you to get back to stop this. The sheriff is having a temper tantrum, kicking his feet and swearing, placing blame on blameless men who obviously didn't help Jake hack into the station. Good times. So they all leave. And I quote, "It's all I can do not to kill every fucking buddy wearing a deputy badge right now, not to mention the sheriff. I hope she fucking kills every last person with a badge who didn't come to save her when she was left to bleed out." So the people are fleeing. They have a heat signature camera thingy watching over the whole entire town so they can see the people filing out of the town, people leaving. The sheriff and the deputies are trying to stop people from leaving and whatnot, but it's not working out. And then they have more messages pop up in random places, including one person cannot change the world, but one person can strike terror in multitudes by Robert Evans. And then on the church is any demon is capable of cruelty, but only an angel is majestic enough to rain down vengeance for the innocent by Marcus. And then on the side of the school is Little Eyes See, Little Eyes Learn. Be a good example for all the little eyes watching you. They're everywhere by their mother. And then the one Victoria quote is on the town hall saying the wicked can fake nobility just as the damned can fake innocence, but only the truth will rise from the ashes when we all start to burn. And then there's just a ton more popping up everywhere. People are like, in people's homes, in the people's homes. These messages are popping up now. A wise man knows when the war is lost and will understand retreat is the only way to save lives. A foolish man will condemn all his followers to death because of his pride. Right, Robert. There's Marcus 1 saying if hatred didn't exist, love wouldn't either, for one is formed by the other. I love and hate this town. And a Jasmine 1 saying I believe the souls of the wrongfully persecuted often haunt our world, bringing the same grief they feel from beyond the grave. And then from that, they blow up the gravestones of her family, including her fake gravestone. And then a new one appears. They also blow up the bell in the church tower, so it crashes onto the ground on the street in front of everyone. And the last message appears saying, "Never mock or harm the passionate, for they are the fiercest with their wrath," by Victoria. They do have tranquilizing darts to get the last of the town people that they can out and all this stuff. Great. But yes, the tombstones are exploding. And then a fire starts in front of the cemetery. And then they, with a light show, make it look like there are souls rising from the graves. To a town so full of guilt and religion is like a mini apocalypse. So people are like running for their lives now. And then you remember all those mirrors they stole, right? They launch from the ground where they're hiding. The soil blanket being pulled back by another of Jake's genius inventions. People shriek in horror as the mirrors line up, all the varieties of them shining, the reflections of the monsters hiding beneath their own flesh. Then the mirrors explode, slinging glass everywhere. So the shards get cut down so small that they merely slice a few flesh wounds. Don't worry, no children are harmed in the act. We're more careful than that.
I just let's see.
Director, so Logan's back at the base, right? And the director is so Logan goes up to the director. He's all like, all the lies and cover-up schemes in the world uh do won't do you a bit of good once I get my hands on that video evidence and have it authenticated. The director is like, you have no idea who you're dealing with. I'll bury you. I will make sure that your name is so fucking ruined it won't mean a thing. No, all the evidence in the world won't do you a bit of good with a reputation like I plan for you. And then Collins is like, wait a second, is that a threat, sir? Because, like, you know, that's more evidence on their side. And the director's like, he's being held for charges of destruction and conspiracy to aid a known serial killer. About Logan. And Collins recognizes the director must have had a bigger part to play than they thought. And that he needs to meet up with some people to get this sorted out, but to have Logan not leave the building or else they will get you arrested. Don't do anything stupid at times. I would like you to know we're on the home stretch. We have literally the boss, what I call the boss fight, which I'm not gonna describe much of. I'm just gonna give you like the basics, right? Um, and then the last revelation about who the original killer was, and then the ending. That's it. That's all we have left. It's technically 40% of the book, but that's all that's left. Like 10% of the book is the boss fight, and I say boss fight. Lana's the boss. Everyone else is fighting the boss.
Hmm.
Anyways, you ready? Um, Logan sees Hadley go into Craig's office suspiciously with a laptop, so he tells Leonard to keep an eye out and then goes in there with her. And it's like, hey, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm hacking into Jake's video feed and whatnot. Jake lets her so that they can see everything. So they only see what Jake sees, but yeah, good times. The deputies are scattered and all of them looking angry and desperate to keep people in town. One even punches a civilian, but two men grab the deputy and sling him into a car. He backs off when one pulls a gun on him, and the civilians help the fallen man back to his feet before backing away into a car. And so basically, the town is now officially fighting back. And so Lana's POV of what's about to happen before the boss fight, she's gotta fight the sheriff. Good times. She's hiding in his closet, watching him. He's freaking out. He throws some things. Um, but he goes to the bar in the living room and drinks some whiskey. He can't let his deputies see him carry a Bible and a glass of whiskey. He can sentence innocent people to a gruesome death, but being so weak as to need a drink is simply unforgivable, not to mention shameful. Um, I'd roll my eyes, but I'm busy watching as he takes his gun off, putting it by the door. A flashback about him literally arresting them for speaking out about how they falsely accused their father, right? So he's finishing off his second glass of whiskey, and then he studies something that's an angle she can't see. Um, and she's like, okay, what's happening, right? Uh, and he goes to the kitchen, and so she steps out and she looks at what had his attention. And guess what's there? It's her flashlight. And so she grabs her knife and walks to the kitchen. Uh, and the sheriff has the gun pointed at her, right? I would like everyone to remember that everyone in this town currently knows her as the head detective's girlfriend. And that's it. And so he's pointing a gun at her, says boo, and then he's like, any reason why the Fed's girlfriend is slinking around my house? And she's like, probably because she's not just a Fed's girlfriend. Um, and he's all like, who exactly are you? You know, as they do. So she's doing her evil smirking thing. She presses her face right up against the barrel of the gun. Um, and says, I'm the girl you sent your son to kill. I'd hoped you see the devil you loved through clear eyes, but I guess you never did and never will. And then that's when it clicks in his brain. He's like, oh my god. And so then he goes and shoots her. But she's smart, Cookie. She already took all the bullets out of his gun.
Oh my god. Imagine you go to shoot someone and then there's just,
I
you
know.
know there's bullets in your gun and you go to shoot somebody and then there's no bullets. My jaw would be on the floor.
But she's like, don't worry. I took all the bullets out of your guns, except for the one that you brought in with you. And so he goes to run for the gun at the front door. But she slams her knee into his stomach. And he hits the ground. And she's all like, I've always preferred knives. And then puts a knife up against his throat. And then she calls up Jake and puts him on speakerphone as they just casually talk about how the sheriff doesn't recognize yet it's all his fault. What's the fun in simply killing him if he doesn't go through at least a little mind torture of the reality he spun from all the lies and corruption? And then Jake says the personalized message got to everyone except three, and took them out. And so he'll check on the whereabouts of the deputies. And then she says, "Good. I want the sheriff to hear the next phase." And so Jake says, "Okay, getting out my clone of the sheriff's phone now," and then tells the deputies to assemble everyone except three of the other deputies, which are the three that are innocent, and go into. But the three others should go to the outlying borders and start seeing if they can find anything. Basically, using a false version of the sheriff's voice to say all this. Good times. So the sheriff knows that there's nothing he can do. No one's gonna come for him. Even the retired deputies get called in, considering they're already rallied to help defend the town. Tries to get him to stand up, and he's like, "Nah, I'm good." And so he says, "If you want me up, then," and then he stops on a scream as she stomps his ankle with the heel of her combat boot,
Mm.
and then kicks him in the face. She says, "I said get up. You decide how much of a beating it takes for you to comply." And he says, "What's the point? You just plan to kill me. You're a monster, the devil's own spawn." And she says, "Your son was a monster, Sheriff. Holding a Bible or wearing a badge doesn't offer you absolution for your own inhumanity either." And she says it might have taken you a year, possibly even longer, to realize you'd made a mistake when there was another rape and kill a year later, maybe, or just outside Delaney Grove, same victimology as all the others. Once your anger and grief calmed and started to ebb, you realized Robert Evans was never the right man, and you framed and punched him brutally for sins he never committed. You realized too late that a true monster was still killing women and taking them, and you're the reason he was free to do it. All that blood is on your hands, Sheriff. It wouldn't wash away. He's crying now, and she continues, "You knew all those claims against Kyle couldn't all be false either, but you'd already lost one child. You forced yourself to live in denial that the other one was rotting to the core. But then again, you killed his mother after forcefully enlisting her help with framing my father. Tell me, Sheriff, did you collect the condoms yourself, or was that Johnson's job?" Um, because you'd killed your son's mother in your quest for framing an innocent man, you excused all the disgusting acts of your vile son, lied to the town, lied to yourself. That night when you told him to take care of us, you never really expected him to bring all his friends. You never expected they'd reach the limits of depravity, then cross them even more severely than you crossed them with my father. But you still hid the truth, covered us up, acted as though the lives of two innocent children never mattered. I hated your daughter, but I never wished her dead. My father fixed her car window once. Did you know that? She'd slept with another girl's boyfriend from a rival school. The girl wrote slut all over your daughter's car. That she Then she busted out the driver's window. There we go. Um your daughter knew she'd have to explain, but she was too afraid to tell you she was sleeping around. My father stepped in and helped her, even though that girl was a despicable bitch to me for no reason. Because my father said she was a kid, and he could never be mean to a child, for fear that one day someone might do the same to us. She didn't even thank him. She acted like it was his job to replace that window before you got home from your hunting trip. She didn't even pay him for the window, and we were struggling for money. But he never said a word because she was just a kid. Yet you labeled him a monster. You shot at every ounce of dignity he ever had, and you sent real monsters after all three of us, yourself included. Tell me, Sheriff, do you feel as though all your prayers for forgiveness have worked? Or do you think a punishment has finally been sent for all your sins? Obviously, that was a great monologue. And he's just like, shit, fuck. Basically, yeah, oh, that's true. Good times. So she tells him to get in the shower. And she says, either do what I say, or I'll let the entire town watch a video of Kyle confessing everything. Um, she says, yes, Sheriff, they may be gone, but they'll still see the video eventually. All his sins on one long video. He's crying during his confessions, by the way, in between the spouts of begging for his life. All the other videos have them all confessing little by little. I had all I needed. They spill details of where to find all their previous camera footage from both those incidents, as you like to call them. They told me everything, and people will see the footage. And he's all like, yeah, but you'll send out Kyle's even if I do what you say. And she's like, yes, they'll see it regardless, but I'll make a deal to keep all this torture off the camera if you get to go get in the damn shower. Don't make me drag you. I'd have to break your hands to make sure you didn't try anything stupid, and that will take some time and effort to thoroughly break them. Um, good times. And he's
I
like, oh
tried
my god, how
jumping
did
in
you
by a
turn into this
floor.
monster? And she's like, is that a rhetorical question? Because I'm pretty sure it's obvious. He tries to lunge for her, but she slams the heel of her palm. You know, in her palm attacks that she always does, neither into the throat or your nose or in the center of the chest to knock the air out of the lungs. Yeah, she does that. Um, and then she kicks him over, grabs his cuffs, and pins him down with her knee against his spine, and then grabs the collar of his shirt and starts dragging him toward the bathroom, ignoring his trying to fight. He tries to headbutt her when she forces him to stand. Uh, and so she just kicks him into the open tub. And he's all like, "What are you doing?" And she's all like, "Using you to fulfill his fantasy, two fantasies actually. You remember? I don't remember if I brought this up, but you know, classical horror trope of like stabbing someone in the shower, right? She started fantasizing about that. So she pulls out her knife, and a dark smile curves my lips before I start playing the music from my phone. I stab him through the curtain. A cry of pain and surprise echoes off the bathroom stalls. But I stab again and again and again until he's just gurgling sounds. And then she smirks as she backs up and says, "Life goals." The song she's playing is the one that goes, "I just shot the sheriff, but at least I didn't shoot." You know, the one that's like, "I killed the sheriff, but at least I didn't kill the deputy." You know that one?
Sure.
Okay, it's a famous song. She's playing that song. So then she grabs his service weapon, his gun, and then shoots him in the dick with it.
Okay, that's kind of funny. That's real funny.
And then just to make sure that he's dead, she slices the knife across his throat. She goes to her family home. Jake's already there. Good times. She's having emotions about this. Everything. And so he's like, "You took longer than I expected, and you were supposed to." And she's like, "I shot the sheriff." And he says, "Time to shoot the deputy." She changes into her kill clothes, which is a red tank top, black leggings, and then a bunch of straps of weapons. He says that she's on her own. She knows when the charges are set. You know the small window you have to get out, and you know to keep your head down. Don't get killed on a part we could skip. Good times. She's wearing a bulletproof vest that's thinner and less constricting than most. And he makes a joke that she looks like but like you know, a video game character, female video game character with all her weapons strapped while wearing a hot outfit, right? It's very funny.
That's a yeah. I would have giggled.
Okay, now is the boss fight. The boss fight is Logan watching it through the cameras that boss fight. I imagine Resident Evil. Thank you.
Makes sense.
So town hall is where everyone's at, where all the deputies are at. That's where it is. Uh, Jake offers to tells them to get ready, and it's about to get ready or get messy. So look away if they don't. And it says that Logan should look away. Lana isn't the sweet girl right now, and so they send back a message. We're in. And he says, "Check your email. I'll give you a front row seat." So she does. There's a weird file in the email. She opens it, and there's a video downloading. And then there's a bunch of files being downloaded. And he says all you have to do is download all the files, and the files will do the rest. Basically, he does a Trojan horse to put all the evidence into the police files, right, and make it look like it's coming from the director's computer. And part of this recording is also the director saying, "You helped make this mess. You clean it. Get rid of the evidence. Get rid of any reports of following those kids, and destroy anything linking us to that godforsaken town." Saying that he'll handle everything and all this stuff. Good times. Lana's wearing a red mask, and the news cycle shows her going into the town hall, right? And then the news cycle version changes to just more like just sitting in front of it, right? And all this stuff. But the version that Logan and Hadley and Jake are watching is like in the town hall watching the boss fight happen. So she basically imagine a video game gunfight where she's just shooting people, right?
Mm-hmm.
She gets shot in the hand at one point, as well as the shoulder. But the main one that takes her down is through her leg. And so she can't stand anymore, so she can't run away. And there's this whole thing where there is a bomb sitting in the basement, and yeah. And I forgot to mention this in the last one, but the whole with the way the town is set up is that everything's in a circle.
Oh my
And
god.
the center of the circle is the town hall. So Jake started a fire on the outside of the town at the graveyard. You remember that? When he was
Yes.
blowing things up? So that fire has slowly been making its way to the town hall. And if she's not out of there in time, she will blow up as well when it reaches the town hall and makes the explosion go ba-bing, ba-ba-boom.
What the fuck? What the fuck is this?
So
What is
imagine
this
all that is
bullshit?
happening while she's also doing a bunch of like weird video game character flips over things and whatnot. Good times. Blah blah blah. This is the part where that's basically all the basics you get. She's pinned. She tells Jake to call. Oh yeah, they also have MK-47s. Why does this small town have MK-47s to shoot her with, or AK-47s, whatever they're called? Oh, they're called MK-47s in this. Why do they have MKs-47s?
Why?
Uh,
Why? Oh, I just.
uh, so, so, Logan's all like, I gotta go help her. Oh my god! And Hesper's like, dude, if you try to leave, they'll arrest you, and there's no way you can get there in time. Johnson emerges from the sheriff's office. She throws her knife directly into his face, and that's how he dies. He just dies like that. Like, you couldn't have given him more. Like, right? So he is freaking out because he thinks she's going to die, right? Um, Suddenly, chapter 15, it's Lana's POV, and we get a Voltaire quote that says, "I should like to lie at your feet and die in your arms." So the bullet wound is so bad she can't stand, she can't get away. She calls up Jake and says, "I love you." Um, and he's trying to get her out, and she's just crying.
You know
And
what? I think that's.
uh huh,
I think this is nonsense.
uh huh. There's a funny story about the time that she blew up dynamite that they found when they were kids. She calls up Logan and says, "I love you," and he's all like, "No, please fight." And she's like, "You showed me what living was like. Again, I forgot." And he says, "You're the only reason I'm still breathing right now. Don't give up. Not now. Not after all you've survived." Um, and she says, "You make the world a better space. Don't ever stop." And then she hangs up on him. She is very sure, like, she can't get out, but she tries again. She still can't get out, right? Um, she has like a whole plan to get away and everything and survive with him. And she realizes, too late did I realize I still wanted to live. Too late did I realize I'm not ready to die. She tries it one last time. Thinks she sees her brother's face, and then
What if it's something drastic?
it cuts to Logan's point of view. Suddenly, the town hall explodes. Everyone's like freaking out.
Me, I'm everyone.
Let me just quote you basically this whole entire chapter. My eyes with a fire that is now closing on the town hall suddenly explodes a deafening sound roaring through the speakers around us. I stagger back as the building continues to erupt, pieces of it blowing up at different times. Silence falls on the entire room. The newsfeed also coming back up with Hadley's link reactivating it. Everyone outside the room is staring at the news with the same shock we're staring at our monitor. But I barely notice anything around me as I break, throwing anything I can get my hands on as I fall apart. Glass shatters around us. Voices call my name. Everything and nothing happens all at once, and I slam my fist into Leonard's face, fighting against the hands grappling me to the ground. Ice and fire wash over me with no mercy, and I shut down. Everything on me turns to stone as I'm restrained and forced to watch the fire join the building and blanketing the entire town. There's no way she got out in time. And then it cuts to 3 months later. Like, we as readers recognize she didn't die, but he thinks she died.
Still,
Uh, he
still, look like.
he went was forced on leave for 3 months. Um, right. He is now starting to grow out a beard. He has a depression beard now. Um,
Not the depression beard.
Everyone just assumes that he broke down because they were pulled out of the town when it needed them. By the time ambulances and fire trucks arrived at the scene, there was nothing left but flames that couldn't put out in time to save anything. Uh, the town burned, leaving nothing but charred, empty structures in its wake. None of the bodies were recognizable. They were too burned to be identified. The only place with bodies was the town hall and the sheriff's home. For 3 months, the news had spoken of nothing else, giving contradictory reports from truthful and unverified sources. That's why I'm back. Lana gave her life for the truth. The last thing I'm going to do is let them cover it all up again. I didn't realize until she was gone that nothing else mattered at all. Nothing I stood for was worth more than her. Nothing I valued held any true value at all. Everything I have is pointless without her. I could have saved her, but I walked away and said, she's dead because of me. So he is printing out a complete file of everything that happened in the past and the now, and basically the whole entire cover up, including he figured out who the original killer was. Leonard's like, hey, let it go. They're never gonna admit any of the truth to the public. Uh, the bureau's already been humiliated. They've given all the concessions they're going to, right? They're just gonna try to cover up more. And he's all like, yeah, but they still claim the allegations of falsifying DNA evidence is a hoax and a lie. They're claiming the video evidence isn't authentic, and they're also not redeeming the name of Robert. And they're never going to. The director is gone. Johnson's dead. No more corruption. And he says whatever Collins says will determine if that's true or not. Because Collins is the director now.
And I proposed the idea of what the fuck.
I know, right? And I quote, they know for certain I'm too fucked up to be here without needing a piece of paper to tell them as much. If anyone knew what I'd lost, no one would question my sanity. During his forced leave, the only thing he could do to keep himself together was to look into the original killer case. Collins already gave him all the information he needed or requested. At first, it made all the sense in the world for it to be the sheriff, with the exception of his daughter. That threw the entire thing into a tailspin. But finally I realized the women were surrogate kills, and once I figured out why they were surrogates and who they were surrogates for, everything made perfect sense. Especially when I linked the trigger to a specific date, the date of the first kill. It's not surprising that Johnson never linked the two together. He focused on one man and made the evidence fit. He never took the time to look around, which was my problem until I finally forced myself to rule out the sheriff. It didn't make sense that Lana would kill so many in such grisly ways without ever going after the original killer that started all this. It didn't make sense that she wouldn't have figured it out, given how fucking brilliant she and Jake were. But then I discovered how genius they actually were. I realized the true depths of their forethought and their planning that went into each and every detail of the masterful plan they put into play. I just wish I had realized how little the rest of the world meant to me post Lana before I lost her. I could have been with her right now. The two of us could have survived that firestorm together. Instead, I let her think my career and morals meant more than she did. I was wrong. Nothing else fucking matters but her.
What if I just,
So Hadley is like, hey, why are you running checks on this Olivia chick, who remember is the woman Lana sent Murdoch's widow to get a new identity and money, right? And he's like, because I need information. And she's like, yeah, but she's a microbiologist who also happens to be one of the original killer's victim's sister. Important. Because he's looking into it because she was getting payments from a dummy account he linked to Jake. All the money in that account transferred directly to Olivia's account the same day as D-Day, aka the day when everything blew up. Because they knew who the original killer was, now I do too, and I know why I couldn't find any evidence of retaliation until now. And she asks why, and he says because I'm brilliant. She tried as hard as she could to find Jake afterwards, and she couldn't find him. Right. So she's sad. He goes to Collins, and he's all like, hey, I prepared the file to reopen the original case. And Collins is like, you're not even technically off desk duty yet. And he says, good thing I prepared this at the desk. He says, I realized Robert Evans was the wrong man, but the killer is either dead or behind bars already. And Loki says, actually, he's living not too far away from here. Collins doesn't even look at the file. And he says, I have all this pressure to clean this all up. And he says, cover it up, you mean? And he screams, if I open this investigation, you can see that one of ours really did falsify DNA evidence. It'll be the end of our unit, as well as possibly allow numerous other serial killers to reopen their own cases and even get out of prison if their lawyers shine enough light on this as reasonable doubt for their clients. And he says, so you're no better than the rest of them. And he says, I'm cleaning up his mess, but I can promise you no one else will ever go through what that family did as long as I'm in this office. And he says, no, an innocent man's name will just go untarnished because you're too scared to stand up for what's right. And he is all like, but he's dead. Destroying your unit and all the good it has done won't bring that man back to life. The end justifies the means right now. And so Logan's like, okay, then consider this my resignation. Colin says, don't be stupid. Take some more time off. You're too close to this case, and you're not thinking clearly right now. And Logan says, I'm thinking very clearly. I joined the FBI with the naive notion that we were going to always do the right thing. No matter the personal cost to ourselves, I dedicated my every waking moment to this place. Sacrificing any chance at a healthy lifestyle or any actual living, I didn't sign up to be corrupted by the one thing that is supposed to be filled with honor, and I won't be a part of it. Plenty of corruption is just outside those doors, and at least I get to have a life out there. Uh, and Colin says you're making a mistake, and he says no, I'm fixing the mistakes, director. Just remember that, and leaves. Hadley comes up to him and is like, "Hey, funny thing, the cops just found Jason Martin, who was the last guy on the list, dead and castrated in South Carolina." Um, Hadley says the police sent her the pictures, and she said that it couldn't be a Scarlet Slayer because she was dead. But the knife is the same type. The wall was painted red, and there was no hesitation marks at all. Also, the shoe was a woman's size. It wasn't Jake. It was her. She's alive, Logan. She's actually alive. The body was over a month old. It was in a cellar of a house that's been on the market for a while. And he says, I'm going to go after them. If you come with, to go with Jake, be with Jake, you can't come back. And she's like, I'll be packed and ready within the hour. And so he's all like, okay, you do that.
He's like, if you come with us to be with Jake, you blah, 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 blah. Didn't they sleep together one time? She's like, okay, let's go.
Technically 2 times, because when Logan and Lana were bang-a-wanging all night long, so were they.
That's so funny. You gotta admit that's funny.
Twice. Technically, they bang-a-wanged twice.
Still, that's so funny.
So he's all like, okay, I'm gonna go get the final answers I need, which is where we get the final revelation, and all this stuff, right? So there's a note on the door when he arrives where he needs to be to get his final answers. Okay, this is a very long section. It's like 5 pages that I highlighted all of. If 5 pages, it's probably more, right? And I would like you to know, within maybe 3 paragraphs of this monologue that Logan does to the original killer, I figure out who it is. And I want you to tell me to pause if you figure it out before he says his name. Okay?
I don't think I will.
When he gets there, there's a note on the door. He finds the man in the back room with deteriorating health. He's on a hospital bed, monitors and IVs hooked into him, probably keeping the pain down just enough to keep him conscious. His eyes are droopy when he sees me, and I pull up a chair, staring right at him. The tube in his mouth will prevent him from speaking, but there are other ways to get answers. After all, I'm a profiler. Micro-expressions are my specialty. It's funny how even Lana can surprise me, I say quietly. He looks confused, and I smirk, knowing he doesn't know who Lana is. A psychopath with narcissistic tendencies. That should have been the profile. A psychopath can feign empathy, can imitate regret, remorse, or even emotional pain, can even become a believable actor in his or her well-adjusted life. It makes them the hardest ones to find, to be honest. You don't always know your neighbor is a psychopath. Pointing around the house, right? It took me a while to figure it out, but when I did, all the pieces clicked into place. Victoria's mother was beautiful, if the photos have done her any justice. The machine, monitoring his heart rate, beats a little faster. I'm back with water and a mini bagel.
How shocked am I gonna be? Because I have no even...
You're gonna be so shocked. You're gonna be like, wait a second, what?
I have no inkling whatsoever of who it could be.
Alright. I won't finish eating my bagel. I'll just set it to the side. Never mind, I have to finish it because a dog coming for it. She was just as beautiful when she died in the car crash as she was in high school. It's funny, I never even thought to look into her past. After all the women who died looked strikingly similar to her when she was in high school, with the exception of Rebecca Cannon. But she died for a different purpose. Someone needed the sheriff to be blinded by rage and ready to take down anyone to punish. The monitor beeps a little faster. Her high school sweetheart was pictured with her in one of the prom photos. I can't believe I never knew it, but I was distracted by an entirely different killer at the time. Turns out she happened to be the girl I love and a guy known as Jake Denver. Victoria Evans didn't die that night. Jake helped her save her life. I think around the point where he brings up high school is when I clicked in my brain. She was beautiful, like her mother, and it's surprising. Jake, someone who appreciates both male and female beauty, never saw her as more than a sister. But he loved her brother. He hated anyone involved who lent a hand in creating the clusterfuck that ended the love of his life. The killer is staring at him, and he knows it's killing him. A man who loves power is now confined to a bed, living in agonizing pain and never-ending helplessness. Even now, he can't form words with that tube down his throat that is keeping him alive, and all he can do is listen. And then Logan says, "You can't even piss without a catheter right now, can you?" Then I notice the sheets are wet. I guess Olivia decided to remove it for your final moments. And then he offers to let him write a note, but, like, he can't, physically can't. So he's basically laughing at him being unable to. And then he says, I'd rather do all the talking anyway. Olivia was the final piece of the puzzle. I wondered why Lana. Did I mention Victoria's Lana? And Jake hadn't bothered to strike out against the man who started the domino effect. But I was looking for a torture and kill like all the others. But they had figured it out. And they started your torture long before anyone else's. Olivia was sister to Caroline, one of the original victims. Unlike Caroline, Olivia looks nothing like the beautiful Jasmine Evans. Bye, Bella! Her red hair and lighter complexion did nothing for the killer who wanted to kill the same woman over and over. Olivia spoke out for Robert Evans and said that there was no way he was capable of such monstrosities. She knew Robert, and he'd been alone with her sister countless times, always lending a hand to fix anything in their house that was messed up because Olivia was in school, and neither of them could afford a real handyman. Robert never charged him. He was just a damn good guy, which is probably what made Jasmine fall in love with him and leave behind a man who was only capable of loving himself. And let's face it, the man moved on to another woman, but the only person to ever sting him with rejection was the one who loved a man so beneath him that it was disgusting. You hated Robert Evans, but you hid it well. You hated him so much, this is the part where you learn, okay, ready? You hated it so much, but you pretended to be his best friend, even as you led the investigation in the direction of him, to punish him for taking a woman from you, from a man like you. How dare he, right? Am I missing anything? Christopher Denver? A.K.A. Jake's father?
No, because I figured it out. I was like, there's no way it's Jake. I was like, oh my god, is it his father? Is it his father? But I didn't want to say nothing in case I was wrong. Oh my god.
Don't worry, there's more monologue. I should have noticed the way you put all your accolades up higher on the walls than your son's. I should have paid attention to all the videos you had readily available of the trial, and all the numerous videos you had Jasmine Evans. You knew her voice immediately. Your wife died after running her car off a bridge. She died when your son was small, so no one questioned the suspicious bruising she had. They all chalked it up to an accident, but it wasn't an accident, was it? You punished her regularly for Jasmine choosing Robert over you, and she finally ended the pain the only way she knew how. Your first murder was on the anniversary of your breakup with Jasmine. It was the same day of her first date with Robert, something the profile had suggested to be his trigger instead of yours. You mentioned your son had to be forced to show up on holidays, but I didn't do the math until later. After all, family squabbles are not uncommon. I just didn't realize his depth of hatred towards you until I finally pieced it all together. Jake stayed with the Evans family more than he stayed at home, because even back then, he hated you. But he didn't know for certain you were a monster until last year, when he finally figured it all out around last Christmas. You see, you thought you were smarter than everyone. After all, you had gone away with countless murders. You didn't stop after Evans went to jail for the murders you'd committed. After that, you killed another girl, almost as though you were taunting the sheriff using your same MO. But then, you borrowed from other serial killers around the country. After that, stealing their style, and linking those kills to their names. Anyone who had a similar victimology to yours. You still want to punish Jasmine Evans even after all this time. But you never realized your son was smarter than you. You never realized he crafted an even more elaborate masterful plan than yours had ever been. Olivia was a microbiologist for a prestigious lab last year when your son gave her a call. It was right about the time he spent 2 solid weeks in her home, probably finding every bit of proof he needed to solidify his resolve. I'm sure he called Lana. She hates being called Victoria these days. You suspected Victoria had survived, didn't you? You even hinted as much to us, but you didn't know for certain. Even before Jake found out the truth, he never trusted you with that secret. His loyalty was to her and her alone. You assumed Olivia was the sweet girl who loved you for trying to save Robert Evans after all. You defended him. Uh, very poorly, I may add. A man as smart as you should have worked a little harder to get his best friend out of the murders he didn't commit. But you weren't really his friend, were you? I'm sure Jake learned the same thing when he watched the trial footage all over again, with a clear head and from a distance. But why would Olivia quit her coveted place at the lab, something she'd worked so damn hard to achieve, to come play nursemaid to you when you got a strange sickness? Are you picking up the pieces? Weekly deposits started going into her account from your son when she came to help you. Weekly deposits also came from you. Why get paid twice? Microbiology is a fascinating field. You learn all about parasites. The right person could use that knowledge to slowly kill a man, to strip away all his power over a year, to make him gradually sicker in a way that doctors who aren't specialists in that field can never understand, especially if someone uses an exotic parasite or something. I'm not saying that's what she did, but she's brilliant enough to have figured out a way to kill you slowly without anyone detecting the cause, all while taking care of you when the doctors gave up and just handed you half the drugstore. But the end game was coming, so Olivia bumped up her regimen, tipping you over the edge faster, reaping revenge for her sister and all those other women, and your son funded her. Lana conceded her own revenge for someone who needed it more, and here you are, impotent, weak, powerless, utterly helpless, and literally pissing yourself. She did her part and left this note for me. Somehow she knew it was coming. It's too late for him. I drew out. Oh, this is him reading the note that was on the door aloud. It's too late for him. I drew out his agony as long as I could, but you can't save him now. Good luck finding me. That's from Olivia. So, he pulls out his gun, Logan does, and says you should know your son was twice the mastermind you ever were because he didn't kill just to be powerful, he killed for revenge, and his own father helped aid in the murder of the boy he loved. So he points the gun at Christopher's dang-a-lang. Because he needs Lana to know he's not going anywhere once he finds her. One irredeemable act will mean I can never come back. As much as I want you to die slowly, I need to show my girl how serious I am. As much as I want you to die slowly, I need you to show my girl how serious I am about staying with her. Originally, I was content, there we go, to watch you die slowly, but something changed today. Something I'm still too scared to fully embrace until I put my eyes on the physical promise of it. For the first time ever, I have hope. Have fun in hell, Christopher. And then he fires the gun into his ding-a-ling until the clip is empty.
Why is that chosen word today?
So, yeah. That's the final revelation. Collins and the team will immediately know, that it was Logan who killed him, especially since he,
Although, did these people in the hospital not hear the gunshot?
No, because it's in his own house. It's in his own house.
Oh, I thought it was in the hospital.
Nah, he just had, because, like, Olivia was, like, his, at-home nurse type thing. But she left. After making sure that he would be as painful as possible, he slowly died. So, they'll know instantly that it's him, because he labeled Christopher as the original killer. And then he was shot in the groin. It's not.
I imagine he bled out to death, correct?
Yeah. So,
imagine getting your dick shot off.
I know, right? Lana's POV. So, Jake made the cameras go black, when everyone thought Lana was gonna die, and then an explosion happened. Actually, it was turning it black so he could enter into the building without any camera seeing him, and then, get her out.
Because he's still supposed to be paralyzed, right?
Yeah. He paid off the hospital staff to sew her up and whatnot, and basically, have, like, a closed off wing to herself, and then bought a yacht. She, from time to time, checks on Logan, but Jake won't hack the FBI database to find out more than that because he's angry at her, so he won't look into it. We know we have to let Logan and Hadley go. Is what's safest for them. We can't condemn corruption, then drag more souls into our own damnation without facing our own hypocrisy. Her hand has already healed up. Her leg is, she's still limping a little bit, but she's fine. And she'll make a full recovery. Just with a scar. As a reminder, at least I won't mind my new scars. They'll tell a better story of survival than the others.
Oh my god.
So, you may be wondering what they've been doing the past 3 months. Basically, Jake has just been fishing, and they've just been drinking a shit ton.
I mean,
her wax apple is proudly stationed, next to, a portrait of the ashy remains of Delaney Grove. So, they're currently not in the States. She looks at the papers to see what's up with the FBI. And she's not surprised they're trying to cover everything up. She almost trips over herself when she sees one article. The same day Jason's body was discovered, another man died. Though his body was just discovered yesterday afternoon, it's the man's name that has my skin prickling, Christopher Denver. She runs over to where Jake is, like, half asleep fishing, right? And she's like, hey! Hey, what's going on? She remembers the day that he figured it out. She'd been suspicious. They watched the trial again together, saw the occasional slip up when Christopher would spark as my father sobbed. It became overtly obvious during one home video when his father couldn't look away from my mother at a birthday party, and his jaw was grinded when my father came up and kissed her, causing her to giggle in his arms. The same man who had sat at our table for holidays when we were growing up was the same man who sentenced my father to the worst death imaginable. So Jake was the one to start the regimen Olivia had concocted, a new synthetic parasite she'd been working on in her lab. The first thing that it removed was his sex drive. Right? The second thing was his energy. She assured his pain would grow to be unbearable, and she was all too happy to make it happen. So,
imagine engineering a fucking parasite, though. Like, that's insane.
I know, right? It was mostly Jake and Olivia's doing. Lana recognized it was their revenge, not hers, so she basically, like, made sure that, like, nobody was coming into the building when they were doing things, but otherwise, it was just their revenge, right? So she goes to Jake and is like, hey, what's going on here with this kill? Didn't Olivia call you to say, like, he's dead? And he's like, no, I'll look into it later. I definitely don't give a shit who killed him. I'm just glad he's dead. So she goes back home, she goes in the fridge, but she notices things are in a weird place in the fridge, and then the apple's in a different place. And whatnot. So she,
oh my god, I just thought about this. How fucking moldy is the apple at this point?
Oh, it's a wax apple. It's not a real apple.
Oh.
Uh-huh. She puts the last nail into the apple for, Christopher. But that's when she notices that it was moved. So she slowly, is moving through the house as she's peeling a real apple, right? With a knife, trying to look unsuspicious. And then she says, if you hurt my cat, you have no idea what will cost you. And in the corner, guess who's working at her? It's Logan! He's like, I'm not sure how I feel about your cat's name being Bennett. So her bad leg gives out and she stumbles, but Logan immediately catches her. She starts to cry. She says, you're here, and he says, you let me think you were dead. And she says, I didn't want to risk contacting you and getting you in trouble. They're monitoring your calls because you were stirring up trouble even on leave. He says they still don't know it was you. Did you kill Jason? That's lying to me that you're still alive, or was he just unfinished business? The torture was mild in comparison. Almost just like you were in a hurry. And she says it was the safest way to tell him. And the reason why it took so long is because she couldn't walk without crutches at that point. Until that point. And so then they kissed. And she asked, how did you find me? And he says, you said if you could be anywhere, you'd be in Greece with me. I hope that meant you came to wait. You remember that whole time where she says if you could go anywhere, where it would be? And he says Greece. And then he was like, where would you go? And she said Greece with you. Yeah, she went to Greece waiting for him. to maybe someday show up.
Greece is large, correct? Kind
Yeah,
of large. Like,
kind of
how
large.
did he? How did he just find her?
Don't worry, it's coming up. She says I didn't want you to sacrifice everything for me, and so then he kisses her again. And says he signed up to justice, not to play politics. And before you get the clever idea to leave me behind because you think you're ruining anything for me, you should know I can't ever go back because I made sure there was no way to leave you with doubt. And she's like, oh my god, Christopher, it was you! Um, So then, Hadley comes out and she of the bedroom is like, "Hey, your cat has bald spots." So, you wanna know how they found them? He had Hadley do a search of a list of surnames. I knew you wouldn't change your first name. Lana Voorhees was pretty obvious considering I watched Friday the 13th all the time when I was a kid. And she says, "Me too." And then it was, and then it was even more obvious when I saw Jake Vlad listed under his address as well. Not sure that Vlad is the best name for him. And she explains he used to dress up as Vlad the Impaler every Halloween when they were kids. His fake last name uh is White, so his name is Logan White, as in Carrie White. As in
Stop.
Carrie, yeah. We got to a sensual sex scene where he looks into her eyes and says, "I decided if I could choose anywhere in the world to be, it'd be wherever you are." And then it's the epilogue 3 years later, where we learn that Hadley and Jake have threesomes on a regular basis. I don't remember how often it is. I think it's like 6 months. And they switch on and off who chooses. She usually chooses women. He usually chooses men. So that's just a thing.
I have to giggle at that, honestly.
So Lindy May sends all of Laurel, you remember the girl that she saved in the second one, letters to Olivia, and Olivia sends them to them in Greece. So Laurel is like just a happy new girl living her best life. Lindy May, you know, her ex-husband who decided to believe known rapist over her about her being repeatedly raped by him, and then left her. And so for revenge, Lana and Jake made sure that he lost everything, in hopes that he would one day kill himself. Well, he did.
Hell yeah.
They broke out the champagne and celebrated.
This sounds like
Murdoch's widow and daughter still live with Olivia. And no one suspected Olivia after he shot Christopher in the dick, so Diana now lives closer to her son. He bought her a home. She thinks that Lana died in the explosion, and Lana says it's for the best. He checks in on the team using a burner phone to contact Leonard. He says that no one's looking for him. Most everyone thinks he snapped. He's the only one who still knows the truth. Craig is happy that he's officially the prettiest face in the unit. Fucking Craig. Fucking Craig. He knows that what I did still weighs heavily on all of them because they're worried that it could one day be them. They just don't understand how unlikely that is, and it's not like I can call and tell them. He doesn't understand the whole threesome thing because he's like, if anyone touched Lana, he'd kill them, and there's no doubt she cut someone to pieces. They touched me literally. Oh, it's twice a month that they have threesomes. So I have a chance. I just gotta go to Greece and I gotta find them, and I have a chance with Hadley. I still have a chance.
Oh my god.
Trust me, I know more about Hadley's sex life than I ever wanted to. They got married. Logan and Lana, right? They dance every night. Hadley and Logan took over the online website thing that Lana and Jake run. And Lana and Jake started a new online business. And Lana now outsources their appraisal jobs to people who need extra income. 5 years ago, I never pictured myself leaving the bureau and spending my days with a semi-retired serial killer while walking the beaches of Greece. I'm fairly positive I'd be the one burning the world down if anyone ever tried to take her from me. She calls me a romantic for that. They got married after 2 months after he showed up in Greece, and then 2 years after that, Hadley and Jake got married. Today's their anniversary, and they're walking to the boat together, and they're being very cute. Okay. There's something you need to learn about loving a girl like Lana. She had to open something up inside herself to do what it did to end Delaney Grove's reign of terror, and that something can't just be locked away. She has special needs that I tend to want to hear because I love keeping her sane, and she can't live in denial of who she is. So they go on the boat. They drive out into the middle of the ocean, where there's no land in sight, and then anchor. And then he takes her down to her present below deck. And it's a guy. His name is Juan Alvarez. It's a favor called in from Leonard. Apparently, this one has raped numerous girls up and down the coast, but his father's diplomatic immunity status has prohibited anyone from being able to touch him. They were in the process of getting that status revoked when his father sent him back to Colombia. The last girl was just 15, and he slit her throat. I trust Leonard, and I reviewed the file myself. They have enough physical evidence to prove it. He hasn't bothered denying it. They just can't touch him. So he hands Lana a knife. She says thank you. They kiss. Once a year is just right for her. Leonard uses that to his advantage because not all monsters can go to prison. And so the book ends with her, with them dancing, and saying happy anniversary, baby, as she goes to kill this guy. And that's how the book ends. That's how the series ends. The end. It only took 3 hours to record. That's fine. At least half an hour is going to be weird pauses, so I can cut a lot of it out.
I just think that.
This book is iconic? Yes.
I think something. I think something, that's for sure. I don't know what, but it is a that's for sunk.
My focus as much as I did. We don't need to talk about how much this has taken over my brain chemistry, how obsessed I am, how this whole series, I'll put the whole series as one book, because there's technically a bind-up of it that's also on my wish list, my favorites of the year. And we don't need to talk about that. We don't need to have a conversation. I'm sure I'm fine in the head.
I don't believe you, but also you finding probably your favorite reads this early in the year is sickening to me.
I know, right? It made my average rating for the month very high. I love it so much.
See, I'm jealous because I don't think I'm ever gonna be able to love something that much again. Only because, like, no matter what, I understand. Like, logistically, nothing's ever going to surpass The Wicker King, but also nothing could ever hit. Like, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes. Yes, I do. That was the series, the end of a grade A time. Anyways, the moral of the story is Team Lana.
I agree.
I've never brought this up, but this is just a random fun fact. Logan's 6'3" confirmed. At least.
Oh.
Because the sheriff is like 6'2" or something, and Logan looked down at him. So he's at least 6'3". Which means he's probably a good foot taller than her. Which is like a thing where at one point, that's why whenever they're like making out or getting hot and heavy, he always lifts her up and she wraps her legs around his waist because that way it makes it easier. That is a point in the book series. But yeah, that's just a thing that I never brought up because I didn't think it was important, but it's just a thing. The real question is, how come I never got to see the pegging? Like, you tell me after nearly 2 years, almost 3 years of marriage, officially 3 years of marriage, they never once pegged? Because, like, in the first book, there were jokes.
Wasn't there also jokes about him helping him?
He hinted that he, personally, has never been pegged and never been into it, but hinted that he wouldn't mind if it was her, and also she blatantly said she's not into bondage herself, but she wouldn't mind binding him up, and he did not turn that down. So you're telling me, here we're back to bondage after all this time, we're back to bondage. You
We're
tell me.
never gonna escape it.
You tell me. They never tried either one. I'm willing to bet that they definitely tried it in 3 years of marriage. And the fact that I never got to see it is a hate crime against me personally.
Well, that means you're just gonna have to write fan fiction, right?
Uh, if I
Then
want
I
to
gotta
read
laugh at
fan fiction
myself.
at this caliber, I'm gonna read Hannibal fan fiction. Did I ever tell
Oh
you
my
about the time
god.
that I almost started writing fan fiction again just for Hannibal?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, because of the AO3 finalists for like most brain fan fictions, whatnot. Um, there it got pretty close to being lower than I expected. Will and Hannibal, right? It got kind of pretty like it almost lost and was like very low down the list. Eventually got like higher, right? And it was fine. But I was like, I swear to God, if it actually was any lower than it was, I would have started to write fanfic again. Just for them. Just to make it go higher. I do not give a fuck.
You know what I think you should do?
Write my book.
Yeah.
But have you heard of Hannibal?
But have you
There's a
heard
body
of
tower. I love the body tower. Could
okay, why don't
I
you put that
write a
power in your
body tower in my own book? Yes. Do you have any final thoughts about Mindfuck? There we go.
good book, book good. Book
Series
mind
good.
fuck.
Good
Good
series.
book.
Good series. Series good. One might even say it's good soup.
One might even say mind was fucked.
They
Fucked
do
was
say it
mind.
in two of the books that they are mindfucked. So,
I was gonna make a really bad joke, but I'm not. I'm not gonna say that.
okay. Anyways, yeah, so, I read this whole entire series in like a week and a half. We don't need to talk about it. Someone should go unload the dishwasher, and that someone is me. So, do you have any final thoughts?
Someone to go do the dishes and not someone is me. So
You're
that's
supposed
the
to say
final
no.
thought.
You're supposed to say no. Final thoughts. No.
No.
Thank you.
Now